number 2 for Heritage and Look and Feel on Tuesday, June 21st at 7 p.m. I'm told here, Laura, that the meeting is muted online, so I don't know if that's something that can be looked at.
We all know that.
Okay, good. So, all right, thank you. So continuing, glad it's just the letter of the mayor. On Tuesday, June 21st at 7 p.m., there's a public presentation on the bylaw number 753-2022 to support the sewer connection assistance program. Also note that on the Saint-Jean-Baptiste, 24th of June and Canada Day, July 1st, the offices and services of the town will be closed. And during this time, for all non-life-threatening emergencies, please contact the Community Patrol at the phone number that you will find online. For Seniors Fair, there will be a Seniors Fair scheduled and organized for June 28th from 1 to 3 p.m. here at the Community Center, featuring health and mental wellness resources, as well as active lifestyle resources in the area. The Canada Day celebrations at Jack Layton Park will be held on Friday, July 1st from 2 p.m. until 10:30 p.m. Now, with regards to tonight's meeting, I will be recusing myself from item 3.4 pertaining to a permit application for a terrace at 471 Main, La Maison Rose. Darren Legault will be conducting the meeting for the duration of this agenda item. This evening, the audited financial statements will be tabled at item 4.3. The town's treasurer and I will be presenting a report with highlights from the auditor's report and financial statements. The tabling of this report in June is a continued sign of improvement since 2014, also noting that this is an election reporting year where a certain amount of time is allocated to finalizing election reports, so requiring more of staff's time. So this is very good in terms of record time. We would like to extend a note of appreciation to the Treasurer, Pierre Charon, and to the Director General, Philip Toon, and all that had a hand in the continued improvement of the municipal organization's books. So thank you. Also, you'll note on item 5.2, the creation of a permanent environment committee for which Mark Gray will be giving an introduction as we come to item 5.2. With regards to ad hoc meetings, I will be inviting the local experts I mentioned for an ad hoc committee on Pine Lake. As mentioned, there will be a June meeting with recommendations to council for July. There are more events that are listed on the town's website, so I encourage you to look at the website for further events. And then with regards to evolving format of our council meetings, you will see that there has been the addition of an item at the top of the agenda, item 1.2, introducing presentations by local organizations. And this evening, we will have a presentation for Heartbeat Farm by Adrian Burke. So thank you, Erin. Also, with regards to question periods, I have been asked to bring back some brevity in order into these parts of the meeting, returning to one question per person per question period, and where questions in the first question period must pertain to the items on the agenda, and those in the second period can be open. As of last meeting, it was set that written-in questions will be last to be read and answered unless the person is online or in the room and wishes to raise the question sooner. So Jim, I know you sent in a few questions. If you'd like them read before the very end of the meeting, I invite you, especially if there's some pertaining to the agenda, to stand. With regards to the recognition of local personalities, community involvement, and remarkable contribution to the community, on the recommendation of the Hudson Arts and Culture Council, this council will be presenting a resolution to mark the invaluable contribution to the local cultural scene by Clint Ward. It is with great delight and gratitude that council brings this resolution forward days ahead of his 90th birthday celebration. I saw Clint at lunch at the Legion's event for marking D-Day, and he was extremely pleased to know that his peers basically nominated him and that we support this nomination. He unfortunately is not here this evening, but certainly is pleased to be noted. With regards to remarkable trees, I'll also let Mark Ray explain what we've been up to recently as we come to probably at the start of part 3 on urban planning and environment. So you can speak to that. So that is it. Let's move on now to the content of tonight's meeting and the resolutions and questions periods. So adoption of the agenda. I will need a mover and a seconder for this. So Peter Mate moves, seconded by, I saw Darren Legault's hand go up, that the agenda of the regular council meeting of June 6th, 2022 be and is hereby adopted as submitted. En français?
Oui. Donc, il s'agit de l'adoption de l'ordre du jour tel qu'il est soumis.
D'accord. So all in favor, please raise your hands. All hands are up. It is carried unanimously. So now item 1.2, la présentation des organismes communautaires, or presentation of community organizations, Adrian Burke for the Heartbeat Farm. This, there was supposed to be a PowerPoint available to those in the room and online. I believe it is visible online. But unfortunately not in the room. We will, if Adrian is okay with it, you could give us a copy. We'll put it on our website tomorrow and people could download it. So unfortunately, you either have to review the recording and see it or download yourself a copy tomorrow.
I think they're printing out a couple extra ones there right now.
Okay.
You might get them. Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right,
Thank
great.
you.
Can everybody hear me? Good. Let's put this up. My name is Adrian Burke. I'm the co-president of the Hudson Food Collective. Adrien Burke, co-président du collectif alimentaire de Hudson. Je vais faire ma présentation surtout en anglais. Je m'excuse pour les diapos qui sont seulement en anglais, mais ça me fera plaisir de répondre à vos questions en français après si vous voulez. In fact, I will stay till the end of the meeting to answer any of your questions if you'd like to. So I don't want to take up any more of council's time. Thank you very much for having us. We're very grateful to be here to present this to you, to present our organization, and also we're grateful to the town of Hudson for their support over the years from the founding of the farm. I can see a couple of councilors that were around at that time when the farm was founded. And also because we leased the land from the town as well. So we're very grateful for that. So first slide. For those of you online, what is the Hudson Food Collective? It's a nonprofit. It's based in Hudson. We are basically working to develop a regional food system. We believe that working on issues of food and food security, for example, actually are connected to many other issues that concern us, like the environment and social justice. Anyways, you can read this slide later. Next slide. I'm going to try and keep this to 10 minutes or less. The Hudson Food Collective is organizes many different activities in our community and in our region. So apart from the farm, we also organize many workshops, wild foraging walks. We take care of part of the history garden just over here by Halgrow House. There's a vegetable garden there. We have a seed library. We do food transformation and many other things. Next slide. As some of you may already know, our biggest project, our main project is our community farm. It's called the Hudson Heartbeat Community Farm, la ferme communautaire Betterave de Hudson. It is a certified organic farm, certified by EcoSer, and it covers about 2 acres. We grow mostly vegetables there. And of course, our interest is partly to educate the public, but also to bring our community together at the farm. Next slide. Last year, we hired 5 young people from the region to help us on the farm, primarily through Canada Summer Jobs Program and through an organization called Project Learning Tree. Next slide. We had 15 work exchangers. Work exchangers are people that actually work about 4 hours a week or more, and in exchange they get a food basket. So work exchangers are an important part of our production strategy at the farm, and we're repeating that model this year. Next slide. We had a total, last year we had a total of 46 people that volunteered as part of the Hudson Food Collective and at the farm, and it represented over 2,000 volunteer hours. In fact, more than 2,000 volunteer hours. So I think it's important, obviously, to state that we are a volunteer-based organization, and therefore we're very, very grateful to our volunteers, and we are always looking for new volunteers. So anybody in the room that wants to come out and help at the farm, but also for other things as well, of course, when we organize workshops or walks or any other kind of activity. Next slide. Just some other things that we did as part of the collective and as part of the farm last year. So we were able to work with 276 elementary school kids over here at Mount Pleasant. We helped set up the garden, and then we helped set up a series of workshops. We actually got a grant to do that as well, so that was great. We had 50 students from John Abbott College come out as part of their course. And we actually had 3 interns also from Concordia that were as part of their sustainability degree. They spent time as part of a stage at the farm. So we managed to reach, you know, students from the very youngest ages right up to university, CJEP university. Next slide. So last year, we reduced our number of baskets, of weekly baskets, to 60. We actually produced 120 the year before. Last year, we reduced it to 60, mostly because of capacity issues. Represented about $23,000 in revenues, just out of vegetables. About 5,300 kilos of produce came out of that, out of less than 2 acres, and all done with our hands, and one piece of equipment that runs on gas, a small rototiller. We made about $6,000 also from the farm stand. We were hoping to make more, but because of Finnegan's, the number of people coming by was less, so that was unfortunate. Next slide. One of the other things we do at the farm is we do create transformed goods. One of the important parts of not trying to waste too much food. There is an awful lot of food waste in our country, about 40% by some calculations. We try to transform everything either through gleaning at the end of the season, or actually just taking those fruits and vegetables that would be thrown away and transforming them into jams and other preserves that we sell. And Itzel Vasquez, one of our board members, is in charge of that. Next slide. We have participated pretty closely in what we call food security. So we've contributed to local food banks. Last year was about more than 300 pounds of produce to Le Pont Bridging, for example, very locally. But we actually worked more closely also with a larger organization, which is called Veille de Pain in the West Island, through what's called the Solidarity Market. And they're also work in partnership with Carrefour Alimentaire Centre Sud. So our small farm does contribute in some way, at least, to issues of improving food security or reducing food insecurity in our region. And obviously, we're going to continue that as well. Next slide. It's too bad you can't see this in the room, because we did get a community service award last year, and you can see Peter Shifke here with our farm manager, Noel Dingra, and his son, Finn, in the slide. It's a great slide, so we were very proud of that. So we feel like we really are a community organization. We feel like everything we do, we're trying to put it back into this community and our region, obviously, our neighboring towns. Just a couple of other projects that we're still involved in and that will continue. Next slide. So there is the kitchen garden that I mentioned over here. That's part of the history garden right by Halcro House. It's a very small little garden, but all of the produce from that went to the Pont Bridging last year as well. And it's really great because it's a way of sort of showing people right in town, you know, what you can do in a small area in terms of producing vegetables. Next slide. We did organize quite a few workshops last year, canning, for example, fermentation. So we're trying to, you know, help people also to learn how to deal with the produce. You know, a lot of times the problem is not necessarily getting the produce, but it's actually knowing what to do with it. And sometimes there's an excess of it in season. So we've tried to organize that. Some of our members also organized online workshops with the Montérégie West Community Network, which was good because during COVID, it was important to be able to reach out to people also, especially seniors, for example. So we've organized a lot of workshops. We're continuing this year. Next slide. We organized some wild foraging walks. Jessica McGovern, who is, some of you might know, she organized some wild foraging walks, and we'll continue that this year. This is really fun. You basically go in the forest and you find out what plants you can eat, and it's pretty amazing what's out there that you can actually eat. Next slide. I guess this is the most important slide, so I'll try and read it to the people in the room. This year is a transitional year for us. We're trying to sort of refocus on our original mandate and also improve some aspects of the farm. So the first thing is we got a grant from Canada Healthy Communities to improve the accessibility of the farm. So we're actually going to improve the main alleyway. Our hope is that it could be accessible to people in wheelchairs, reduce mobility. We also are creating a new education space right by the main building there that's going to be hopefully more welcoming. It'll be shared community space. So we hope that we can organize more events there and everybody in Hudson can feel really welcome in that space. But to make it more sort of welcoming, we have to improve it in terms of infrastructure, and that's what we're doing. In fact, Dawu was even there today improving some of the grading to improve some of the drainage right beside the building before we improve that area. So it's just nicer to be there for kids or when we're giving classes or whatever. We are hoping to add some signage this year because we realize that we're not doing a good enough job to tell people what we're doing there, for example, at the farm. So we'll do that. We're going to focus more on our educational mission of our food collective. And so we're organizing more workshops this year, at least one a week. Our plan is to have one at least once a week. So next slide. So here's just for those not online, you can see this. We have a series of workshops that are listed there for June. June 18th, wild foraging. June 19th, healthy aging. We're going to do that at the farm. We're having a barbecue on June 26th. Next slide. So just to complete, so for 2022, we're obviously going to continue to grow a healthy local organic food and distribute this food in our region. We've just hired a young farm manager from Hudson. He just completed his first year at Mac campus in the agricultural program. So that's great. He's from Hudson, and he's going to help us out this year, Lauren. And so we feel that we're in good shape, and we're ready to produce. In fact, we've been planting like crazy for last week and this week. So anyways, thank you very much. I just had a quote here at the end about how food is all about community. I won't dwell on that. I want to just show people our partners and our sponsors, because obviously this is very important. We do get help from the town of Hudson, but also from the Canadian government, from RISC, the MRC. We've had grants from them. Dawu has helped us out, Castle Hardware here. So we're very grateful to our sponsors. And I'll just finish on the last slide. It basically says thank you, merci, and I'll answer any questions, but I'm not going to take any more of your time, but I will be around here. I'll stay till the end of the meeting. I'm glad to answer any of your questions. Merci. Et je répondrai en français aussi, si ça vous tente.
Thank you so much, Adrian. That is great. Very, very exciting news. All right, moving to section 2, confirmation of minutes for item 2.1. Whereas council has reviewed the minutes of the May 2nd, 2022 regular meeting, and whereas the town clerk has reworded item 6.1, confirmation of a change of position, permanent part-time journeyman, to specify that the employee has completed his trial period and is therefore confirmed in his position.
2.1, il s'agit de l'adoption du procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du 2 mai 2022. Le procès-verbal a été soumis au conseil et on mentionne que Une reformulation a été effectuée en ce qui concernait le dépôt devant conseil à l'item 6.1, confirmation d'un changement de poste journalier à temps partiel permanent. Et la reformulation visait à spécifier que l'employé avait complété sa période d'essai et était donc confirmé dans son poste, ce qui n'était pas clair à la première.
Itération.
Oui, exactement.
So this is a clarification that is brought to the resolution that was adopted last week. May I have a mover and a seconder for the adoption of minutes? So Mark Gray proposes, seconded by Peter May. Thank you. If there are any objections to the adoption of this minutes, please raise your hand. There are no hands raised, therefore it is carried unanimously. This would be the first question period, so I ask that the questions be pertaining to the items on the agenda.
Steve Farrell, 86 Butternut.
Hello, Mr. Farrell.
Hi. So as I understand, I only have one question.
Well, one and maybe
Well,
a
let's start. Well,
follow-up.
let's
We're
let's-
trying to keep them narrow.
well, let's start with one. Very
Let's
important.
start with one.
I came to see you earlier, Mayor, just before I did started, to avoid embarrassment to yourself, the councillors, and particularly the general manager here. And if this is your presentation here, you have two slides showing the revenues, but one is headed up expenses. So
I
you are not
noted
pre-
the
So
same
you are not
thing.
presenting a financial statement tonight.
I believe that they're reprinting that page that is missing that was doubled, but thank you for
And
noting it.
is this your presentation on Zoom tonight?
I believe that that page is presently being reprinted and it will be reissued to the people in the room. And tomorrow, when it will be submitted online, that correction will have been made.
Okay, so your Zoom will include these as expenses. but they're
Correct.
really revenues.
I believe that is being corrected right now, but thank you for noting it. Thank
Okay,
you.
yeah, well,
No, I appreciate it.
I thought it was good, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I go on with the second question?
Yes, you may. You've earned it.
Okay. Your financial report. You mentioned that the town's financial health has improved significantly as a result of the efforts and controls put in place over the past several years.
Mhm.
I agree. Can you elaborate on this specifically? Are these controls that have been suggested by the auditors that have been put in place? Or are these controls over spending and budgeting, which is under the purview of councillors and management?
Right, so this is a reflection on previous year's results. And my understanding is that these controls are in response to previous management letters, which have been answered. And we are presently ongoing in improving controls or improvements for this council moving forward. But anything that is on the financial reporting side of it has been addressed.
Okay, so the impetus has been the auditors, so
Correct,
external rather than internal.
correct.
Okay. You basically had zero input into the budget, so my questions are going to just center on actual 2020 to 21.
We're going to learn through you so that we
When
get
we're
it
looking-
right for next
When we're
year.
looking at the revenues, essentially, you're basically almost the same as 2020, but you've got huge swings, basically, with transfers and investments revenue. First of all, could you explain what the difference is between interest revenue and investment revenue?
That is beyond my level of knowledge.
What's It's a basic question.
I know.
Okay, let me ask this question then.
But I invite
I
you
know
to
what
wait till
interest-
the treasurer comes back into the room and maybe. we
I
can
know what
answer
interest
those.
revenue is, but
Yes.
the investment revenue.
Yeah.
Okay, I presume that's interest on
Off
cash sitting in the
of
back.
what we've
in the bank?
invested,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, and is it only short-term interest notes that you're making?
Again, you are going beyond my level of knowledge.
Bonds, stocks?
I invite you to wait till the treasurer comes back in the room and he'll be able to answer your questions. Unless Philip, would you like to answer the questions?
The surplus. is now-
Interest
Wait, wait,
revenue
wait.
is from late accounts, and investment is revenue generated from the bank account.
Okay, how come it's up so much, the investment revenue?
Because because of the cash flow. I mean, we get regular interest payments from the banks. They do deliver according to the deposits.
No, but Mr. Toon. it's
Yes,
up-
Mr. Farrell.
It's up 400% from 2020. Your investment revenue went from 105,000 to 541. There couldn't have been that much excess cash in 2021 versus 2020. The gross revenues haven't changed. Payment dates haven't changed for taxes.
These numbers are from the auditors, so the numbers are correct.
No, I'm not questioning the accuracy. I'm looking at it from a management viewpoint, which you, sir, are in charge of this.
Yes, and the money is still in the bank account, so I can assure you that nobody is pilfering the money like they have in the past. Thank you.
Mr. Farrell, may I suggest that you and I sit down and go through those together? Because I think they're valuable questions and I would like to understand them better, but maybe this is not the forum.
Sure.
Would that be all right with you?
Okay.
Yeah.
The long term.
That was actually a question. Would it be all right if you and me went through those together
Yeah, I'm
out of this
going
meeting?
on. I'm going on to another question.
I see you're going on, but I would like you to perhaps save those for our meeting.
Section 2, okay.
Thank you. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Louise Craig, 127 Charleswood. I've got a question about legal bills.
Yep.
We are spending about $50,000 this month on legal fees. I would like to know what our budget is this year for legal and how close are we or have we surpassed?
It's a good question. Philip, do you have
Philip?
that answer? for us?
The budget is approximately 300,000.
So we're over that at this point.
No,
Close. We're in May. These are May expenses? How close are we, Philip?
I'd have to look, but we haven't busted the 300,000
Would
budget.
Pierre know this? Would Pierre know?
He has the same information I do.
But Louise, again, I suggest if you send us the question, we'll send it back to you. I don't mind declaring that at next meeting and
Right.
giving the totals, but obviously we
Yeah,
do
because I
not
mean,
have the math on hand.
I tend to tally them up
Yeah.
on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
Last month was around 40,000. The month before that was 40,000.
So if you multiply by 12, you're coming to
So I'm going, we're pretty close now to that amount of money.
fair
yeah.
question. So I will write it down.
We're still following bylaw 348.
We are.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with what's on the agenda paper. Just one question, 3 minutes. I have it in front of me.
No, I know. But I think there is some discretion to the person leading the meeting, correct? And I am trying to keep this
Right,
within,
but I think the
Right.
bylaw still stands.
it does.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's bylaw 348 and bylaw stands, and it says you've got 3 minutes to formulate a question.
There's a lot of
but it
things in that
doesn't say
bylaw
what
that
it
are
is.
curious, such as the meeting should be held at town hall. So there are
Why
some things
don't
that
we?
stand well and others that don't.
But it's still there and it's still.
We need to update it.
Thank
We
you.
really do. Thank you. I see there is a hand up online. Are there other questions in the room?
Jim McDermott, 100 Melrose in Hudson. It's about the Pine Lake and the committee that you mentioned.
Mhm.
Can you maybe expand for the people that are listening to this? Because I made a few phone calls in the last few weeks, and I got the impression there's kind of a feeling that the presentation of those numbers was done in a way to push people more towards not doing anything because the numbers were so high. And yet the other representation of doing nothing didn't really have any numbers.
Mm.
So is this committee about focusing on saving Pine Lake, or is it about going back over the entire
Yeah.
history of this again and doing nothing? Like, what is,
No, that's a
if we
fair
have 2
question.
weeks or less, getting into July, and you're looking for something to come back from experts, can you explain a little better right now what that means so that we don't have this mystery happening for a month and then come out of that hole and say, this is what we decided, and everybody goes, what? So
Of course.
maybe you can expand on that, please?
So it was not a question of showing drastic numbers in order to encourage people to go to the other option. The intent of that public presentation and opening up for comments was not an either or choice. It was more here's where we're at, here's where the project stands, here's its value. If we were to go straight ahead here, we'd have to reopen the loan bylaw, which would trigger some upset we'd expect for the fact that we're going from 1.05 million, not in the bylaw, but as a cost of the project, to 1.9 as an estimate. So chances are it would be more. And at this point, there was enough questions around the table as to how did it get to be this much and why are we doing this type of dam? And what would happen? What is the least we need to do? So rather than wait on concrete data from which to then move forward, it was my suggestion that we move forward with at least presenting what we have to date, and then say if there's anyone out there who has any comments. But also, as you know, there's been a lot of pushback from those who live around Pine Lake as to the town must, right, put back the dam under a certain list of requirements. So that as well, I wanted that to be known as to there is a judgment out there that clearly states that the town has no obligation as to that list. It has an obligation to put back a natural area. But after that, it's not specific to the people around the lake. So I wanted that to be out on the table. I don't think we'd communicated that accurately or totally before. So with regards to your answer, are we reopening a big can of worms and taking our time and wasting a lot of time on this? At this point around the table, my sense is that we are split. There is half of council who's content to go forward with the dam drawings that are on the table to go out to tender and to put back that dam. And then there's the other half who would like to review the design criteria and or look at not putting back a dam. So that is really interesting. I'd be the one to sway one or the other. Through the comments that have come in, more and more, and also at the public presentation period, there were enough questions as to why were there no moving parts that would have reduced the size of the dam. So is this council comfortable in putting back a level of risk? Because the reason why there were no movable parts was to minimize risk and minimize maintenance. But I'm not sure that at the time of that design criteria, that it was fully understood that that design criteria would generate such a big dam that would then of course cost more. So this is more, there has been a retired engineer who lives in Hudson who's approached me with calculations and suggestions on how to bring the dam down. Obviously, he's not a professional who's been contracted by the town. He's retired. He's no longer operating as such, but at least it opened the conversation in my mind as to what are the options with these movable parts and what might that look like? And do we want to go that way? So that's one aspect that I think needs to be answered because there were enough questions on that. And then there's the other aspect, which I think is perfectly viable, which is what happens if we go back to the way it was before there was a dam. Can we do so? And what would be the impact? So far from the conversation we've had with EXP, who was mandated, and you'll see that in the resolutions to come, just for a very short consultation process, to who's walked through the Vivry corridor below the dam and confirmed that the level of erosion is substantial. So since 2014, it's become more. So we can expect that if we were to remove the dam at this point, we would have to control the increasing erosion. All this to say that I think somewhere in between, it's not an either or answer. It's going to be somewhere in the middle. But that
But you
part,
did just say that half the council doesn't want to do it, wants to put in what
it's
is
not
there.
a want, doesn't want, right?
Okay.
It's like, that's why basically the mandate that was given to me is come to a recommendation, but at this point, this is reasonably where we stand, right? So if we can find something that is viable and can within a reasonable time frame, let's say we roll back, I don't know, I'm putting a number out there, but 40% of the design work, rolling that back to add moving parts, that might be acceptable. So that's what I'm there to assess with.
Yeah, I mean, that
experts.
particular question is like, who decided that you didn't want to maintain something at all? Like go from nothing.
It
go
was a
from doing
design
something to
criteria
nothing.
set by previous council, and that's all right.
Couple of things I looked at, and one thing is that different provinces have risk management for dams.
Mhm.
And the fact that the thing broke in the first place was due, I mean, regardless of whoever was working on it or not, I mean, things just don't last forever. So I don't think the town, I don't think the people of the town should be beating up everybody with the fact that the
Thank
dam broke after it was made in whatever year.
Thank you.
60 or something. So
No, I appreciate it.
anyway, we've spoken and I'd like to be part of this thing.
Yeah,
but I
no,
wanna-
for sure. You're on my
I wanna
list.
go
You're
in
on,
the direction
you may
that
have a
means something.
biologist on your list, so it's not just engineers, so that it's balanced. All right. Yes. I'm not doing well at keeping my question period down, am I?
I'm going to start with an apology because I thought I could hear pretty well, but I'm really having trouble hearing you, and I apologize for that. I should have come with a hearing aid. I have a safety concern. My name is Kip Caudry. I live on Crescent Street, right behind Westwood High School. For several years, we've sort of had pretty much of a calm. Things have gone pretty well at the school with respect to safety. But just in the past few months, there's been a significant change.
So
I've spoken to-
unfortunately, excuse me, this item doesn't pertain to an element on the agenda. Right, and I'm trying to keep to some rules. Would it be all right if you ask this question at the end of the meeting?
I'm sorry.
Would it be all right if you ask this question at the end of the meeting, as it does not pertain to tonight's, any item that is on tonight's agenda? I'm sorry, thank you. Well, I just moved it forward. I'm sorry, I have to kiss the mic, I've been told. I'm sorry. June Penny, yep. June Penny, I will, or Philip, allowed to talk. So June Penny, you're next.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I was just a little concerned about the restriction of question period to one question per month. So will there be other avenues for people to be able to express their opinions and ask their questions? Like, for instance, at district council meetings, can that be reinstated?
That is really up to each council member if they would like to have them. Absolutely, those are encouraged. But you could ask a question at the beginning of the meeting pertaining to items on the agenda and then stay to the end. And then it doesn't really disrupt the flow. People who want to leave early can leave early without missing the rest of the meeting.
Anyway, I'm just not very pleased with this new format. I find it's unfair because some people who have, early morning starts to their jobs or whatever may not be able to stay to the end of the meeting. And I know that you're trying to condense it, but, in the presentation tonight, from the Heartbeat Farm was wonderful, but it took up a big chunk of time when citizens may have some very, important concerns. And to be able to ask one question per month related to the agenda, and the agenda, you read through it and you don't really know what it's all about because there aren't many details about the items on the agenda. So I'm just saying that as a
Right.
citizen out here that's participated for many years, I feel that we, the citizens, are being muted and not able to express our concerns via questions. And I would like to see the district council meetings made mandatory for every councillor, because every councillor should be in touch with their citizens, because that's who they're meant to be representing if we want to follow the democratic process. And that's
Thank
not
you
how.
for your opinion, June. I will not be making the district meetings mandatory. It really is up to each. It takes a certain amount of time and investment. But I will take under consideration your comment with regards to limiting to one question. I think one question and a follow-up at the beginning of the meeting, and then another one at the end of the meeting is, let's say 4 questions. That's quite a few for people, but I'll keep an open mind on that one.
Thank you.
Thank you. See, Jim Duff is standing.
It pertains to the agenda.
Great.
Jim Duff, 127 Charleswood, Bonsoir to the Mountain. Item 8.7, awarding a contract by mutual agreement, Pine Lake, evaluation of impacts of removing dam. We also already have about 7 years of data
Mhm.
that I've gone through from several consulting engineering firms, including EXP, giving us a detailed picture of the potentially disastrous impact of removing the dam without constructing a retention detention structure upstream of the Cameron culvert. What does council hope to accomplish by paying EXP another $17,000 plus taxes to get the same answer? What are you looking for? I just don't understand why this thing keeps coming back like Groundhog Day.
So I have actually gone through and you sent in those questions. That was very helpful. I went through the file and you're correct. There has been multiple. There's been six different studies since 2014. The one on EXP was actually, je vais le lire en français, le relevé des ouvrages, so a survey of the work, the identification of corrective measures, and the evaluation of budgets. And as you remember, those budgets were much lower than the numbers we're looking at now. So we can expect that the mandate then is a different mandate than they have today. The mandate they have today is what would happen if we removed the dam. And that was not the mandate that they had then.
So this is just purely budgetary. The $20,000 is going to go to establish a budget for the.
No, the
remedy?
17,000 is really what would be the scope of work required if we were to not put back the dam.
So you're voting tonight on giving EXP a mandate to come up with a number?
It's not a number, it's a scope. But EXP has already been working on this for a few weeks. It's a little bit of something that is under contention here at the table. So they started looking at this the week of the public presentation. It's a 10-week mandate, and they're already about halfway through that. And that's what's helping us move forward as fast as possible.
Do you have a timeline in mind? Because I'm always cognizant of that Salazar fish habitat.
As are they.
$141,000 sitting there. I know it's
Yeah.
not much,
Yeah.
$2 million project, but I mean, are we going to be able to do this in your mandate? I mean, we thought we would be able to do it in our mandate, but we did not.
Right.
This is now, the dam washed out in March 2014. So
Right.
we're now,
So I remind you that the engineers in the public service, I believe, are still on strike. So even if we had a resolution and go now, there's many, for example, the certificates of approval at the Ministry of Environment level would not be able to move forward. So we're sort of in a bit of a bubble right now, but the sooner we get moving, the better. Another point that I find interesting is the actual work of putting back the dam is only 8 weeks, which is surprising, right? So the rest of it is really the approval process and the loan bylaw and everything else. So you're correct to keep the fire under my feet. I can tell you that Peter keeps the fire lit underneath my feet. That's why he's asked me to commit to a July date. And I think we will make it. I'm
Good.
confident.
I have questions about other stuff on the agenda.
On the agenda,
I'll save it for the end.
please, thank you.
Can I have more than that?
At the end of the meeting? Yes, you may. Thank you.
Still declaring who we are, but I'm Natalie Best, 38 Carmel, but
Hi, Natalie.
and previous counselor and was originally there when there were original reports done by EXP. So I think, did I hear you say you want to pass this in July? Did I misunderstand that? maybe?
Bring a recommendation to council for an adoption on what we're doing to move forward. Are we going with the present dam drawings and going to tender with them, or are we going for a different scope of work?
Okay, because as I recall, EXP prepared quite a presentation for us. And as I recall, people voted against paying for a lot less than what you're suggesting right now. And there was a very competent committee that was formed at the time.
I agree.
So I wonder, why are we already in the middle of a mandate with EXP, which this is typically at that amount of money, you have to pass a resolution before you give. So we're already halfway through, and now you're here tonight to say, oh, well, they've already been working 5 weeks or whatever, and we hope to have it done. So you've already broken the rules by giving it to
I think
EXP.
there's a discretionary amount that is allowed. right? I don't know.
But you're over
20,
$10,000.
Is it 10? C'est combien?
It's 25,000.
25,000. So
Well,
we
because
haven't broken the
I know
rules.
at the time that we were there, for anything that was over 10,000, people were made aware.
Right.
So, but I think for the general public, it's extremely important that everybody know that this was voted down. We proposed at what, $850,000?
750, I think.
The community did not want it.
Well, we
So
remember.
I don't think, yes, I think we voted against it.
No,
So
I
in any
didn't
event,
actually.
Just to say that I don't think that it's fair if we're going to be putting Hudson on the line for any huge amounts of money, further debt in July.
So what would be your recommendation?
I
on
think
this
that
one?
if this is going to be an amount that we're talking about spending capital expenditure like that, my God, that's.
What
huge.
would be your recommendation
My
for this one?
recommendation would be have the general public informed and to make sure that they know that July is ridiculous. Everybody's going to be gone on holiday.
Well, we could
everybody
wait till
will be going on
August or
holiday.
September, then there will be others who will be
There's a better
unhappy.
chance that at a September meeting,
Oh, I don't think that July will necessarily be, if there was a loan bylaw reopening.
I haven't related to this, I'm just curious,
Yeah.
because I understand that you responded to certain people, but not to others. I put in my comments both on the site.
There are
as well
426
at home.
comments.
No, but it's interesting, because I think it's really important to understand what's going on in this community. We're saying, okay, we have to now go spend all this money on the dam. Carmel Street, which I live on, half of it was paved last year. The other half, from what I understand, is not going to be paved. And Carmel is the least of the worries. I look at Lakeview. I mean, we're going to have major accidents, kids on their bikes.
Lakeview's on our table. I believe
And
that
when?
soon we will be coming in the fall, probably Lakeview for tender. The plans are ready. We're just waiting for a subsidy.
Again, like here we are, it's June. And I
Agreed.
mean, that's very serious. I can't even imagine anybody that lives up there. Anyhow, I think that it's crucial that everybody is
So
aware
do you
of
figure
anyone
that
who's-
Pine Lake should not be restored? Is this what I'm
My
hearing?
view, you know what my view is because I wrote you. My view is that it doesn't need to go back to being a lake. Yes, it was pretty. 100% it was pretty. But you know what? We see this all across the country. Not only here and in the US, there's many videos that have been documentaries that talk about that. The transition, even EXP had brought up.
So if we
examples of that.
remove the dam, the erosion will be worse and it'll be in the
Okay, I
type
think
of
that-
erosion of Cheline
So-
valleys. So
so-
substantial.
You know what? I think that we have to look at what the report was and you had a committee. So all of that had to have been looked at the last
I
time
don't
around.
believe that committee looked downstream to see what they were
Oh,
looking at the
I would find
area.
that highly unusual.
I have read the
Anyway,
report.
the meeting has to go on and there's nothing worse than someone taking up the whole evening, but it's pertinent because there are a lot of new people in Hudson and they
Agreed.
might not realize, what's happening and how this has all been looked at. And now we're into third council and not to push something through without people being aware where their money.
I
is
don't
going.
believe we're pushing through anything.
I'm just
Had
stating my
we
point.
would have done
I'm
so.
adding anybody who might be watching. And I find this sad. I wish that more of our community would come. This is, for anybody who's online, we're like under 20 people here. So, and some of them
There
very
are 23
council.
online, so 20 plus 23 is decent.
We're a community, well, you said 5,400, like at least 100 people who might be interested to know what's going on.
I can tell you that other municipalities do not have the turnout at the meetings as we do. No, but we have good participation. Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right. On continue? Oui. D'accord. So item part 3, urban planning and environment. Councillor Mark Ray will report on environmental needs.
Do you want?
Tu veux en français? Pardon.
Oui. Le conseiller Mark Gray va rendre compte des nouvelles en matière d'environnement.
Would you like remarkable trees and the environment committee? Both? Okay. Environmental stuff is really moving along with the CWG, of course, has been working diligently since we first started. Now 2 other things that we've been working on. One was a remarkable trees seminar, which was just sort of put together over the last couple of months. There's a woman in Quebec named Suzanne Hardy, who is potentially the Quebec's premier expert on remarkable trees. She worked for Hydro-Quebec for 25 years, identifying them for their protection from Hydro-Quebec. She's written several books, one about remarkable trees of the National Capital Region around Ottawa. And so we got in touch with her and she was willing to come to Hudson. And we did a 2-day seminar, which was this past Friday and Saturday. I had asked 3 Hudson historians to take part, a naturalist, an arborist, a certified arborist, and Chloe and I took part, and it was to get an idea of what we can do to identify and protect and educate people about our remarkable trees, and also in general, just the protection of trees and canopies and so on. So this is what we worked on all day Friday and then Saturday morning, and then we went to various sites throughout Hudson to have a look at some of these remarkable trees, of which she had previously identified 15 years ago coming through here. She's pretty much 25 years ago. She's been all over the province doing this kind of work. So it was just an educational program for us. And as we work through the minutes, there will certainly be something we'll put out, to sort of share some of the things that we've learned. And it will certainly lead to an educational program down the road, which we hope to get out there for the population. So that was one big one. And then the next great thing is the environmental committee, which we'll vote on tonight. The group has been picked. There's several people who applied online. They were all contacted to see what their interest level was like and give them an idea of what it would be about. What we hope to be able to do is the council can give the topics for this group to analyze and look over, and then come back to council with recommendations. So topics like pesticides, rehabilitation of buffer zones by wetlands, greenhouse gas emission reductions, any of the hot topics in the environment. We'll be able to have this great committee of citizens to look over and help us with making those decisions. So I'm quite excited to get that started. Darren is my co-counselor on the Environment Committee, and there's about 12 members or 6 who had come from applications online, 2 from the Nichoir and 2 from the Conservation Working Group who wanted to take part in this as well. So.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Much appreciated. So moving on now with the items for urban planning. If you want to do a brief intro. Ah oui, en français ou ça va? Non, pas besoin.
Je pourrais pas.
C'est bon. Je pourrais en faire un très, très bref. En fait, on a rencontré une experte des arbres remarquables vendredi et samedi. Son nom, c'est Suzanne Hardy. On a été très, très chanceux de la recevoir. Et on a fait le tour justement de quelques arbres qu'elle avait déjà inventoriés il y a 25 ans. C'est une personne qui a écrit plusieurs livres d'arbres remarquables et présentement, son projet actuel est d'écrire un livre où un des chapitres serait sur Hudson. Donc, c'est elle qui a choisi le lieu comme étant spécial et c'est vraiment par hasard que nous l'avons rejointe. Elle était très intéressée de venir. On espère la revoir à la fin de l'été. Mais bref, tout ça pour dire que c'était vraiment intéressant. Vous allez voir certainement au fil des prochains mois des mesures qui vont sortir justement de ces réflexions, peut-être une politique de l'arbre, ce genre de choses. Et le deuxième point, c'est la création du comité d'environnement, dont plusieurs membres viennent du public. C'est je pense qu'il y en a 6 qui sont des personnes qui ont appliqué en ligne suite au lancement ou l'invitation publique. Il y en a 2 qui viennent du comité temporaire qu'on a présentement, qui s'appelle le Conservation Working Group. Et ensuite, il y en a 2 qui sont des experts. Du Nichoir. Donc, voilà, on est bien excités. Ça va être justement l'item 5.2, la création du comité en environnement. Alors, voilà. Donc, for the items in urban planning, did you want to do a brief or should we just move forward?
I can do a little brief. So basically, we had 11 files, 4 additions, 2 major renovations, 2 signs, 2 new construction, and 1 minor derogation. To give, for those of you that haven't been involved with TPAC, this meeting was a 4.5-hour meeting. So that's a typical length of meeting for one of these for 11 agenda items. So we did spend quite a bit of time reviewing all these. So I guess we'll get started.
Yep. Item 3.1, 66 McNaughton, Spape addition.
So this is for an addition to the right rear of the home, adding more usable space. So basically, TPAC reviewed it and was unanimous in their recommendation to approve.
Item 3.1, il s'agit d'un agrandissement au 66 McNaughton. Le comité consultatif d'urbanisme, le CCU, a traité ce dossier pour y évaluer les objectifs et les critères à respecter pour tout type de demande de PIA. Et la recommandation est unanime à l'effet d'approuver le PIA relatif à la demande de permis.
Merci. So I need a mover and a seconder for this item. Mark Gray moves and seconded by Peter Mate to approve the SPAPE of the permit request for the lot at 66 McNaughton. If there are any objections on this file, please raise your hand. I see an objection. Are there any others? So this resolution is carried by majority. Item 3.2.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
3.2 is 128 Main. This is an addition to a barn. Basically, there's an existing barn and the addition is in the form of a U shape to surround the rear section of the barn. TPAC reviewed it on May 10th and was again unanimous in its recommendation to approve.
Item 3.2, c'est une demande de permis qui vise l'agrandissement d'un bâtiment agricole au 128 Main. Le CCU a traité le dossier et sa recommandation est unanime à l'effet d'approuver la demande de permis.
Merci. So I need a mover and a seconder for this item. Mark Gray moves and seconded by Peter Mate to approve the permit request on the lot at 128 Main. If there are any objections to this resolution, please raise your hand. I see no hands raised. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.3.
So 3.3 is 453 Ridge. The 453 Ridge is a agrandissement, so it's an addition. TPAC reviewed it again at May 10th, and there was a unanimous recommendation to refuse. Whereas the objective to preserve the architectural character in the case of existing buildings is not respected, including the overall characteristics, roof shape, and some of the other items listed here.
Item 3.3 vise le 453 Ridge. C'est pour un agrandissement. Le comité consultatif recommande unanimement de refuser le PIA compte tenu que l'objectif de préserver son caractère architectural n'est pas respecté et le critère visant à respecter les caractéristiques propres à l'architecture et ses caractéristiques particulières n'est pas rempli. Donc, la résolution vise à refuser la demande de permis.
Merci. I need a mover and a seconder for this item. Peter Mate moves, seconded by Mark Gray to refuse. I'll make sure I'm on the right one. To refuse the permit request at 453 Ridge. Are there any objections to this resolution? I see none. It is carried unanimously. For item 3.5, I will recuse myself.
3.4.
Sorry,
This is
3.4.
Good evening, everybody. Recording secretary, please let the record show that Mayor Hutchison has recused herself from item 3.4 of tonight's agenda. I will turn it over to Councillor Mate to lead us into item 3.4.
So 3.4 is a major renovation. It's a deck basically for La Maison Rose. I think this is basically the second iteration that's come through. TPAC reviewed it and has a unanimous recommendation to approve.
Item 3.4 vise le 461 Main, la Maison Rose, pour une demande de permis de construction d'une terrasse. Le comité consultatif d'urbanisme recommande unanimement d'approuver la demande relative au permis.
So item 3.4 is a proposal to accept the SPAPE request. Do we have a mover? Mark Gray, seconder, Peter Mate. Is anybody opposed to the approval of this request for 471 Main, item 3.4 of tonight's agenda? I see no hands. If anybody's opposed, please raise your hands. No hands. It's unanimous. Please let the record show that Mayor Hutchison has returned to the table.
Thank you, Darren. Item 3.5.
3.5 is 472E Main. So it's a sign on a structure. Basically, it's a request for a sign on the side of the 472, or sorry, on the front of the 472 building.
Do you want to do 3.5 and 3.6 together?
Yeah, sure. So for this particular sign, TPAC reviewed it and came to a unanimous recommendation to approve. Item 3.6 is also a sign for 472E Main. This one is a sign perpendicular to the building on the side, and it's a projecting sign. TPAC also reviewed it and again was unanimous in their recommendation to approve.
3.5 et 3.6 visent tous les deux le 472E Main. 3.5, pardon, il s'agit d'une enseigne sur structure, alors que 3.6, c'est une enseigne sur projection. Le comité consultatif a révisé ces deux dossiers et recommande dans les deux cas d'unanimement approuver le certificat d'autorisation. Donc, le vote s'appliquera aux deux items à l'agenda.
Merci. So for both 3.5 and 3.6, I will need one mover and one seconder. So Mark Gray is moving and seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any people not in support of this resolution for either item 3.5 or 3.6? Please raise your hand. I see no hands raised. Both are carried unanimously. Item 3.7.
3.7 is 515 Main.
And I will make a slight correction here. Nicole Durand, who is in the room, notified me that it is not 515, but 517 Main for future. Please continue.
Noted. Okay, so 517 Main. This is the Villa Wyman project. So it's a new construction. So TPAC did review this on May 10th. The committee's unanimous recommendation to refuse. So for the purpose of this meeting, there's been some summary. Basically, the unfulfilled criteria for refusal are as follows. So respect the architecture of the surrounding buildings, facades that are architecturally meticulous and carefully treated, avoid large uniform walls. The exterior walls should have significant percentage of openings. Orient the main building in relation to the surrounding buildings, encourage low environmental impact development, and limit heat islands by minimizing mineralized development in favor of vegetated development, and shading mineral surfaces with large trees.
Item 3.7, qui devrait être le 517 Main plutôt que le 515, c'est une demande de permis pour la construction d'une résidence pour personnes âgées. À sa réunion, le CCU a recommandé unanimement de refuser le PIA pour la liste de critères suivants qui ne sont pas remplis. Donc, le rappel de l'architecture des bâtiments avoisinants et manquants, façades qui font l'objet d'un traitement architectural minutieux et soigné n'est pas rempli. Il y aurait lieu d'éviter les grands murs uniformes. Les murs extérieurs devraient comporter un pourcentage significatif d'ouverture. L'orientation du bâtiment principal devrait être en fonction des bâtiments avoisinants. Il y aurait lieu de favoriser l'aménagement à faible impact environnemental et limiter les îlots de chaleur en minimisant les aménagements minéralisés au profit d'aménagements végétalisés et la présence d'ombrage sur les surfaces minérales à l'aide d'arbres à grand déploiement. Donc, la résolution vise à refuser le PIA.
Merci beaucoup. So I will need a mover and a seconder for this resolution. Mark Gray and Peter Mate seconding to refuse the state permit request at 517 Main. And I'd like to add for the two that are in this room that we do support the Wyman's project very much and would like to work with you. It's just not a question period. Yeah. All right. You don't hear it
Yes.
as well, or I need to move the mic closer? Oh, okay. So repeating for those who are online because they don't have, they don't hear, Nicole Durand, who is your director, president of the board of director, has asked that as she didn't understand everything that had been listed, she was asking for a copy of the text tomorrow to be handed, and I believe that that's possible. We will be meeting with you this month as well and to review that. So we are here to. Item 3.8. Oh. All right. So anyone not in support of this resolution as presented, please raise your hand. I see no hands raised. It is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 3.8.
So item 3.8 is 570 Main. So it's a new construction. Basically, it's replacing a home that's already there. So TPAC reviewed the file and was unanimous in the recommendation to approve this new construction.
En français.
Oui. 3.8, 570 Main. C'est les propriétaires de la bâtisse souhaitent démolir la bâtisse existante. Donc, il y a un programme de préliminaire de réutilisation des sols qui doit être conforme au PIA. Donc, c'est pourquoi la demande est devant nous. Donc, la recommandation du CCU était unanime à l'effet d'approuver. Donc, c'est la résolution qui est devant le Conseil.
Thank you. I will need a mover and a seconder for this resolution. Peter Mate and Darren Legault seconding to approve the SPAPE of this preliminary program for the reutilization of the vacated land at 570 Main. Are there any objections to this resolution? I see one hand up. Two hands up. It is carried by majority. Item 3.9.
So item 3.9 is that 840 Main. This is basically a minor exemption for a shed that's being relocated from one side of the garage to another side of the garage. Are we doing 3.10 as well?
3.9 because it's a minor exemption. We have to hear any objections. We have to do it separately.
All right.
3.9 vise le 840 Main. C'est une demande de dérogation mineure afin d'autoriser une remise en cours avant à 102 mètres de la ligne de l'eau au lieu de que ce soit en fonction de la cour latérale ou arrière. La recommandation du CCU est unanime pour l'approbation de la demande. Et conformément à la réglementation en vigueur, les personnes intéressées par la présente demande sont invitées à se faire entendre par le Conseil maintenant.
All right, so if there is anyone who requests to be heard, please either come to the mic or if you're online, raise your hand and we will hear your objection to this request for a minor exemption. I see no hands online. There are none in the room. So there's no request to be heard. Moving then to, I need a mover and a seconder to approve this minor exemption. Peter Mate. Mark Gray, seconding. If there are any objections to this resolution, please raise your hand. I see no hands raised. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.10, so same address.
So 840 Main, same address. This is a major renovation, basically in moving the shed in order to keep the roof lines with the existing garage. The request is to move the garage door onto a different facade of shed and to add a window where the garage door once was. So TPAC reviewed this and came to the unanimous recommendation to approve.
3.10 vise encore une fois le 840 Main, mais cette fois-ci pour une demande de rénovation d'un bâtiment accessoire. Le CCU a traité ce dossier et sa recommandation est unanime pour l'approbation de la demande de permis.
Merci. So I will need a mover and a seconder for this resolution. Mark Gray moving, seconded by Peter Mate to approve the SPAPE for the permit request at 840 Main. If there are any objections to this resolution, please raise your hand. I see no hands up. This is carried unanimously. Item 3.11.
So 3.11, 28 Wharf. So this is the Hudson Village Theater. So it's the addition. TPAC reviewed the plans and came to a unanimous recommendation to approve.
En français. 3.11, 28 Wharf. C'est une demande d'approbation de l'architecture d'un agrandissement au 28 Wharf, donc au Hudson Village Theatre. Il y aura une demande qui devra suivre en PIA pour l'implantation et l'aménagement paysager. Mais pour le cas qui nous occupe, donc l'architecture, le CCU recommande unanimement d'approuver le PIA. Et la résolution qui est devant le Conseil, c'est d'approuver le PIA à la condition suivante, soit que les pignons du toit du bâtiment existant soient symétriques.
Merci. So I'll add those clarifications. This is for the approval of the SPAPE for the architecture of the addition with the following condition that the roof gables of the existing building be symmetrical. This mention has been forwarded already to the Hudson Village Theatre. And just to understand that when the site plan and integration at the lot come in, that part will go back to TPAC, whereas this is basically giving them it's giving them the approval so they can move forward with their project and continue on the plans while they're raising the funds to continue with their project. So I will need a mover and a seconder for this resolution, Peter Mate and Mark Gray. If there are any objections or anyone objects to this resolution, please raise your hand. I see no hands up. This is carried unanimously. Item 3.12 is for the tabling of a monthly report for permits that were issued in April of 2022, whereas members of council take note of the tabling of the monthly report for permits issued by the Urban Planning Department.
3.12, il s'agit du dépôt du rapport mensuel des permis émis en avril 2022. Donc, les membres du conseil prennent acte du dépôt émis par le service de l'urbanisme.
Merci. Moving on to section 4 of the meeting, administration and finance. This is item 4.1, approval of disbursements for May of 2022. Whereas council has examined the disbursements made and to be made for accounts payable as of May 26th of 2022 to approve the following disbursements as of May 26th as presented. For checks, it is $1,834,031.94. For canceled checks, it is $2,893.91. For direct debit, it is $1,202,312.11. For canceled direct debit, it is $116,423.50 for a subtotal of $2,917,026.64, where there are 3 payrolls in the month of May. Payroll 9 is $116,429.05. Payroll 10 is $118,943.43. Payroll 11 is $112,740.55 for a total of accounts paid out in May at $3,265,139.67.
4.1, il s'agit de l'approbation des paiements pour le mois de mai. Donc, en date du 26 mai, les paiements étaient les suivants. Donc, en chèque, 1 834 031,94 sous. des chèques annulés pour 2 893,91 sous. En débit direct, 1 202 312 et 11 sous. En débit direct annulé pour une valeur de 111 423 et 50. Le sous-total se mène à 2 917 026 et 64. La paie numéro 9, 116 429 et 5. La paie numéro 10, 118 943 et 43. La paie numéro 11, 112 740 et 55 pour un total des comptes payés à 3 265 139 et 67.
Merci. So I will need a mover and a seconder for this resolution. Benoit Blais moves, seconded by Darren Legault. If there are any objections to this resolution, please raise your hand. I see none. It is carried unanimously. Item 4.2, releases of the unused balance of the surplus allocation to IN-2001 Bellevue Street Rehabilitation. Whereas the project number is for the rehabilitation of Bellevue Street and the loan bylaw 732-2020 approved by the MAMASH on September 8th of 2020 for the financing of the rehabilitation of Bellevue Street. And whereas there was a resolution passed in December of 2020, Resolution 335, where we appropriated $250,000 from the free surplus for the decontamination work. And considering that the total cost of the work, including the decontamination of the soil, is less than expected, and whereas the project is fully completed, and whereas there's no need to retain any amount other than required for the project, this resolution is to release the unused balance of the surplus allocated the unused balance is $178,439.55, and that this unused balance be returned to the free surplus.
Item 4.2, donc en lien avec la réfection de la rue Bellevue, il y a eu un règlement d'emprunt le 732-2020 approuvé par le MAMASH en septembre 2022 pour le financement de ces travaux. Il y a également eu une résolution en décembre 2020 qui affectait 250 000 à même le surplus libre pour des travaux de décontamination. Toutefois, le coût total des travaux de décontamination était moindre que ceux prévus. Donc, le projet est maintenant entièrement complété et il n'y a pas lieu de retenir d'autres sommes que celles nécessaires. Donc, la résolution vise à libérer le sol non utilisé du surplus affecté au projet IN 2001 de 178 439,55 et que le sol non utilisé de l'affectation soit retourné au surplus libre.
Merci. So I need a mover and a seconder. So Benoit Blais moving, seconded by Darren Legault. If there are any objections to this resolution, please raise your hand. I see none. This is carried unanimously. Item 4.3, tabling of financial reports. So in compliance with the Cities and Towns Act, members of council take note of the tabling of the 2021 financial report and the 2021 external auditors report.
4.3, il s'agit du dépôt des rapports financiers. Donc, les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du rapport financier et du rapport des vérificateurs externes pour l'année 2021, le tout conformément à la loi sur les cités et villes.
Moving on to item 4.4, the mayor's report for financial statements and the auditor's report highlights. So in compliance with the Cities and Towns Act again, I will report to the citizens of the highlights of the town of Hudson's 2021 financial report and the external auditor's report. Further items in here, you will find it online. Let's see. So this, Steve, is the page that was replaced. Est-ce qu'on en a une de plus pour Monsieur Farrell? Merci. So thank you for raising this, Steve. This will be posted online tomorrow. I have to keep ducking because there's one microphone. All right. So I am pleased to present this first, for me, report of the mayor with regards to les faits saillants. So the highlights of the financial report and the external auditor's report for the year of 2021. As per Article 105, 2.2 of the Cities and Towns Act, requires that at a regular sitting of the council held no later than June, the mayor shall make a report to the citizens on the highlights of the financial report, the chief's auditor's report, and the external auditor's report. The mayor's report shall be disseminated in the territory of the municipality in the manner determined by the council. I believe this will be through our website, posted tomorrow. On the next page, in light of the above, I am pleased to present the highlights for the year ended December 31st of 2021. Also included are some interesting facts about the town and a reminder of some of the projects completed in 2021. En français, vous voulez que je fasse en français et en anglais? C'est comme vous voulez. I've just skipped through 3 pages and I skipped the French. That's why they're all looking at me funny. I can do both.
y aller.
Veux-tu? Ouais. Veux-tu qu'on retourne sur les pages précédentes?
Ben, je vais retourner
Vu que je viens de réaliser ce que
rapidement.
Vas-y.
On dépose ici, on présente ici le rapport de la mairesse, à l'intérieur duquel est inclus aussi le rapport sur le rapport financier de l'année 2021. Le rapport de la mairesse, il est tenu en vertu de l'article 105.2.2 de la loi des cités et villes de déposer lors d'une séance du conseil tenue au plus tard en juin que le maire fait rapport aux citoyens des faits saillants du rapport financier, du rapport du vérificateur général et du rapport du vérificateur externe. Nous, on n'a pas de vérificateur général. Ce rapport est diffusé sur le territoire de la municipalité conformément aux modalités déterminées par le conseil. Le conseil a déterminé qu'on mettait les rapports financiers et le rapport de l'auditeur sur le site web de la ville. Tout ça dès qu'il sera disponible parce que le MAMACH a changé de système en plein pendant la période de production des états financiers, fait qu'il nous est un petit peu difficile de les avoir tout dans le temps. On continue concernant le rapport de la mairesse. Considérant ce qui précède, Madame...
J'ai l'honneur. Allez-y.
Madame la mairesse a l'honneur de présenter les faits saillants pour l'exercice terminé le 31 décembre 2021. Vous trouverez aussi des documents. Dans ce document, quelques faits intéressants sur la ville et un rappel de quelques projets réalisés en 2021.
Merci, Pierre. Le pire, c'est qu'on s'était entendu que je ferais les premières feuilles. Donc là, je viens de lui changer son ordre.
C'est beau.
Bref, alors notre ville, en bref, là, on est en français. Vous voyez en ligne, et malheureusement pas dans la pièce, mais il y a un graphique qui vous donne la quantité de maisons individuelles non attenantes, donc jumelées, isolées. La quantité est de 2060. Les logements privés sont au compte de 2447. La superficie de la municipalité est de 21,79 km². La population est de 5411. L'âge moyen est de 48,9. La taille moyenne des ménages est de 2,3 personnes. Et la quantité de personnes ou le pourcentage de personnes qui ont 65 ans et plus est de 31%. Ces chiffres proviennent des Statistiques Canada de 2022, donc le profil de recensement de la population de 2021. So in English, online you see this and you will see this in the report tomorrow. Our town at a glance, if I start in the middle, the population is 5,411. The land area is 21.79 square kilometers. The average age is 48.9. The average household is 2.3 persons. The percentage of people that are 65 years and over is 31%. The quantity of single detached homes is 2,060, and the number of private dwellings is 2,447. These numbers come from the Profil de recensement of Statistics Canada 2022 for a recensement de la population of 2021. Je vais maintenant passer la parole au trésorier. I will now have Pierre Charon continue with the presentation.
Définitivement, le plus important à signaler avec le dépôt de ce rapport financier, sans nul doute, le fait que le rapport fait l'objet d'une opinion sans réserve ni recommandation de la part des vérificateurs ou auditeurs. C'est la première année depuis des lunes qu'il n'y a aucune recommandation. Quand j'ai commencé il y a 3 ans, le rapport des recommandations, il y avait à peu près 12 pages. Je vous invite à voir l'original du rapport de l'auditrice inclus dans le rapport financier 2021 qui sera publié sur notre site Web dans les prochains jours. De plus, et c'était la remarque de l'auditrice, la santé financière de la Ville se trouve de beaucoup améliorée, particulièrement depuis les efforts et le contrôle mis en place au cours des dernières années. Aucun point significatif ayant une incidence négative importante a été relevé par les auditeurs. In English?
Perhaps to be
You go.
preface.
Allez-y.
So this is with regards to the comments received from the auditors. Perhaps most importantly, our financial report has received an unqualified opinion and no recommendations from the external auditor. This means no management letters this year, and this is the first time since we can remember, so at least 2014, as far as I know. We invite you to view the originals auditor's report included in the 2021 financial report, which will be posted on our website in the upcoming days. And I really would like to thank Philip and Pierre for your extraordinary work on this. It has not been easy. There were some extraordinary situations and irregularities that required some straightening, and you got it done. So thank you.
Thank you.
And past councils as well. In addition to the town's financial health, it has improved significantly, particularly as a result of the efforts and controls put in place over the past several years. No significant items with a material adverse effect were noted by the auditors.
Si on prend ici, j'ai fait dans la présentation, je fais qu'un résumé des revenus et des charges principales. Le détail vous sera disponible là, dans le rapport complet qui sera mis à votre disposition sur le site Web. Au niveau des revenus, pour les taxes, au budget, on avait 11 810 800 $. En réalisation 2021, 11 897 489, légèrement au-dessus du budget. Et comparativement à l'an passé, notre réalisation était 11 819 509. On est pas mal en ligne avec ce qui était l'année passée et notre budget. Les tenants-lieux de taxes, ce qui est reçu là, de la part des gouvernements supérieurs pour leurs édifices, au budget 2021, 160 700. La réalisation, 160 307. L'an passé, on avait eu 170 105. Au niveau des transferts, toutes les subventions qu'on a pu avoir, en budget 2021, 193 100. La réalisation, 358 404. L'an passé, on avait 864 968. Il y avait beaucoup plus de subventions l'an passé au niveau de la tech, entre autres. Cette année, il y en a beaucoup moins. Services rendus. Le budget 2021, 235 300. La réalisation, 192 120. Et la réalisation de l'an passé, c'était 224 546. Il faut tenir compte que ces services-là sont liés là, beaucoup au niveau des loisirs. Fait qu'avec la deuxième année de pandémie en 2021, c'est ce qui explique cette baisse de revenus. L'imposition des droits, principalement les mutations, 1 83 300 comme budget. La réalisation de 2021, 1 903 844 000. La réalisation de l'an dernier, 2 124 836. Fait qu'il y a une légère baisse, à peu près 200 000 au niveau des mutations comparativement à l'année précédente. Et amende pénalité, on avait un budget de 40 000. C'est assez difficile de dire qu'on va
qu'on va imposer des amendes, qu'on va se fixer des gros objectifs. Fait que c'était le budget qu'on avait, 40 000. La réalisation, 138 359, comparativement à l'année précédente, 95 467. Il y en a beaucoup qui viennent, je pense, d'un suivi accru de la part de la SQ et peut-être aussi au niveau de la patrouille sur les questions à la suite des missions de permis pour nos stationnements dans les parcs. Au niveau des intérêts, 185 000 de budget pour 2021, réalisé 252 527, comparativement à 238 575, une légère hausse par rapport à l'année précédente. Autre, on avait un budget de 1000, on a eu pour 2615, il n'y avait pas de réalisation en 2020. Le total des revenus de fonctionnement, budgété 13 709 200, réalisé 14 905 665, comparativement à 2020, on avait 15 538 006. Plus en 21, on a eu des revenus d'investissement de 541 102, comparativement à l'an passé, 105 966, ce qui fait un grand total au niveau des revenus en termes de budget, 13 709 200, réalisé 2021, 15 446 767, comparativement à l'année précédente, 15 643 972. Fait qu'il y a une légère baisse de revenus, comme je l'ai dit tantôt, principalement au niveau des mutations. Ensuite, au niveau des charges en anglais, yeah. So.
Vas-y.
Oui, vas-y. C'est bon. For the revenue, in English now, for revenue, so we had for taxes 2021, 11,810,800. We actually have for 2021, 11,897,489 compared to last year, 11,819,509. The Tenalia tax, this is what is paid by the government for their property. On the budget, we had 160,700. So we realized in 21, 163,07 compared to last year, 170,105. Next item is the transfer. Those are the grants from the provincial and federal government. Budget 2021, 193,100. The actual 2021 is 358,404. And the previous year was 864,968. The service rendered, so that's basically for public work and more the loisir and culture. So we had a budget of 235,300. So the actual 2021 is 192,120 compared to the previous year, 224,546. So the main reason for that decrease in 2021, this was the second year of the COVID. So a lot of, by example, the pool was closed during the summer. So we had no fees collected from there. The next thing is for the rights, which include the transfer fee for the houses. The budget was 1,083,300. The actual 2021 is 1,903,844 compared to 2,124,836 the year preceding year. And the fine and penalty, we had a budget of 40,000. We realized 138,359 compared to 95,467. Then the interest, we had budgeted 185,000. we collected 252,527 compared to 238,578. And the last item for revenue, it's other, we had a budget of 1,000 for this item, and we received 2,615, and we had nothing the year before. So the total for the operation, we had a budget of 13,709,200, and we actually have 14,905,665 compared to the previous year, $15,538,006. Added to that, we have the revenue, investment revenue for investment revenue. We are nothing planned on the budget, but we actually had 541,102 compared to the previous year, 105,966. So the total revenue budget, 13,709,200. The total actual 15,446,767 compared to 15,643,972. This is for the revenue. For the charges now, the general administration on the budget. C'est là-bas. Benoît. Merci. Okay, for the general administration, we had a budget of 2,056,800. The actual 2021 is 1,846,648 compared to the previous year, 1,639,351. So it's a little bit increased last year because we had a little bit more people, and especially we had replacement at the clerk office, town clerk office. Security, public security, the budget was 3,409,500. The actual 2021, 2,652,480, and compared to the previous year, 2,531,326. For transport now, this is all public work. The budget was 2,773,800. The actual is 2,590,794 compared to the previous year, 2,654,554. So it's a little bit less than the budget, but a little bit and less than the year before. Sewage and water and sewage now. The budget, 2,648,200. The actual 2,491,443 compared to the previous year, 2,554,897. In the next line is the health expense. The budget 71,300. The actual 69,371. And compared to 72,561 the year before. In the urban planning, we had a budget of 750,100. The actual 2021, 668,425 compared to 834,550. So it's quite less. And then in recreation and culture, we had a budget of 1,696,100, and the actual is 1,374,209 compared to 1,050,141. And then the last one is the financial fees or the interest. We had a budget of 837,001. The actual is 735,219 compared to the previous year, 787,646. So our interest is decreasing right now. interest rate that we assume on our debt. So the total charge, we had $14,283,000 budgeted. The actual is $12,428,589 compared to the previous year, $12,125,029. So we had before adjustment and operating or deficit. So in the budget, we had a deficit of $573,800. And the actual now is $3,018,178 surplus. And compared to the previous year, a $3,518,943 surplus. From that, we deducted the interest, investment revenue. In the actual, it's as I mentioned earlier in the review, $541,102 for this year, and previous year, $105,966. And then we added the fiscal reconciliation element, which is the $573,800 for the budget, which bring us to a zero balanced budget. In the actual 2021, we had element of fiscal reconciliation of element of 169,120, and compared to last year, 407,160, for a total of actual 2021 surplus of $2,646,196 compared to last year, $3,820,137. Peut-être que je peux y aller en français tout de suite.
Oui,
J'ai passé.
Oui, c'est bon.
Je vais reprendre en français maintenant. Première ligne, c'est l'administration générale, les dépenses d'administration générale, le budget 2021, 2,056 800. La réalisation, le coût actuel de l'année, c'est 1,846 648 comparativement à 1,639 351 l'an passé. Sécurité publique, budget de 3 409 500, le réel 2 652 480 comparativement à l'année précédente, 2 531 329. Ensuite, au niveau du transport, tout ce qui est les travaux publics, 2 773 800 de budget. L'actuel, 2 590 794 comparativement à l'année précédente, 2 654 554. Au niveau de l'hygiène du milieu, l'aqueduc et l'égout, 2 648 200 de budget. Le réel, 2 491 443 comparativement à 2 554 897 l'année précédente. Au niveau de la santé, on avait un budget de 71 300, le réel 69 371 comparativement à 72 561 l'année précédente. Au niveau de l'urbanisme, budget de 750 100 avec un réel de 668 425 comparativement à 834 550 l'année précédente. Au niveau de la culture, des loisirs et de la culture, on avait un budget de 1 696 100. Le réel, 1 374 209 comparativement à l'année précédente, 1 050 141 $. Et les frais de financement, budget 837 100. Le réel, 735 219 comparativement à 787 644 l'année précédente. Le total des charges, budget 14 283 000. Le réel, 12 428 589 comparativement à l'année précédente, 12 125 029. Ce qui donnait un déficit au niveau du budget avant ajustement là, de 573 800 et un surplus cette année au niveau réel de 3 18 178 comparativement à 3 518 943. À ça, on ajoute, on enlève, c'est-à-dire les revenus d'investissement de 541 102 au réel et 105 966 l'an passé. Et Aussi, ensuite, on tient compte des éléments de conciliation fiscale pour arriver au revenu pour fin de taxe. On rajoute 573 800 pour balancer le budget à zéro. Au niveau du réel, on rajoute 169 120. Et l'an passé, c'était 407 160. Les éléments de conciliation fiscale, ben, c'est des choses comme l'amortissement, le repaiement de la dette, des éléments comme ça qu'on tient compte, qu'on rajoute ou on enlève. Ce qui nous donne, en bout de piste pour l'année 2021, notre budget est équilibré. On finit l'année avec 2 646 196 comparativement l'an passé, 3 820 137. La prochaine diapositive que vous allez voir là, quand ça va être disponible, je présentais un bref sommaire de la dette à long terme telle qu'elle est présentée aux états financiers. À l'heure actuelle, on a une dette totale de 24 892 000 qui est répartie. On donne l'échéance des principaux remboursements. On rembourse dans cette année et l'an prochain 1 802 000, 1 849 000. Ensuite, ça descend un peu en 2024, 1 088 000 en 26 et en 2025 et 2026, 1 113 et 1 140. Et pour les années suivantes, il y a 17 900 qui vont être remboursés, ce qui donnait le total de 24 892 000. Puis, il y a une autre colonne qui donne un estimé de la dette, de l'évolution de la dette là, pour les années futures. Fait que cette année, on dit 24 842 000. Après ça, ça va baisser à 23 090 000, 21 244 19 17 900 en 2026. Tout ça ne tient pas compte des dettes futures, dont particulièrement cette année, en 2022, en février, on a financé pour 5 85 000 pour les travaux de Maine et Bellevue. Ce que je veux dire ici, c'est juste de ne pas paniquer, parce que temporairement, en 2022, la dette va monter, mais en 2023, avec les remboursements qui sont prévus suite au règlement, à la finalisation de l'entente et des règlements antérieurs, on va repayer juste en règlements qui ne sont pas nécessairement échus, mais qu'on va rembourser. On va rembourser entre 3,5 et 4 millions juste là. Définitivement, à la fin de 2023, on va revenir à un niveau probablement inférieur à ce qu'on a actuellement. C'est ce qui est dans les projections. Okay, in English, I presented the next slide concerned the long-term debt. I presented the debt at the end of each year, 22, 23, 24, and so on. And also the reimbursement expected on each year. So the balance at the end of 2022 is 24,892,000. At the end of 2023, 23,090,000. 24, 21,244,000. At the end of 25, 19,040,000. At the end of 26, 17,900,000. This doesn't include the actual debt that we financed in February of 5,085,000 for the work on Bellevue and Maine last year and the year before. Even though this would be added to this, the actual amount of 24 million, I'm saying don't panic, because in June and September 23, we had a lot of reimbursement, which is planned, which is over around 3.5 and 4 millions that we be able to reimburse after settling everything on the old bylaw 504, 505, 553, 554. So the two bylaw, just two bylaw represent 2.2 millions approximately. And we'll reduce other because due our financial situation, we'll be able to reimburse loans with higher interest rate than what we have now. The next slide is for the, just to mention the state what it is now on the financial reserve. So at the end of this year, we had a accumulated surplus available, which is a free surplus. At the end of 21, it's 8,049,289. Last year, it was 6,223,321. The working fund is actually now at the end of December 21, 775,581 compared to last year, 914,618. And then we had the accumulated surplus, affected surplus of 1,885,351 for 21 and 1,509,870 for 2020. This is a brief summary. You have more detail in the financials report. La prochaine acétate en français, c'est acétate, on monte dans le temps. La prochaine diapositive, c'est réserve financière, juste pour vous faire un bref état. Le surplus accumulé disponible à la fin de 2021, 8 049 289 comparativement à 6 223 321. Notre fonds de roulement est de 700 disponible et de 775 581 comparativement à l'an passé de 914 618. Et le surplus affecté est à 1 885 351 comparativement à 1 509 870 l'an passé. Entre autres, le fonds de roulement, il y a une baisse importante, c'est parce qu'on a utilisé cette année pour des équipements plutôt que d'aller en emprunt. J'ai choisi d'utiliser le fonds de roulement. Juste pour vous rappeler que le fonds de roulement, on a un fonds de roulement de 1,3 million. Fait qu'on avait largement de fonds, plutôt que d'aller emprunter à un taux d'intérêt pour des équipements. On a choisi de payer en utilisant le fonds de roulement. This is for the financial portion.
Tu veux que je lise le restant ou tu veux y aller? Tu veux que je fasse la partie en anglais, tu fais la partie en français?
OK.
Vas-y. Commence.
J'y vais?
Vas-y.
OK. Diapositive suivante, on vous présente les faits saillants de 2021. D'abord, au niveau du fonctionnement. Les revenus étaient à la hausse comparativement au budget, principalement dû aux droits de mutation, mais au total, étaient similaires à ceux de l'exercice précédent. C'est ce que je vous ai mentionné tantôt. La baisse des dépenses des salaires et avantages sociaux dû à la fermeture temporaire du service des loisirs, particulièrement découlant de la pandémie de la COVID-19. Ça explique un peu là, certaines dépenses à la baisse. Il y a eu beaucoup de travaux en régie qui ont été faits d'entretien et réparation au niveau de la voirie, de l'aqueduc et comparativement à ce qu'on faisait dans le passé. Il y a eu une mise à niveau au niveau des bureaux des travaux publics pour être capable d'accueillir les personnes additionnelles qui étaient requises pour avoir un service des travaux publics plus performant. Il y a 2 personnes qui se sont ajoutées en 2021. Donc, on a dû remettre à niveau là, les bureaux. La poursuite de l'intégration du nouveau personnel dans la foulée, la réorganisation et du déconfinement. Suite lors du déconfinement, on avait baissé beaucoup. Donc là, on a repris, puis on a repris un peu, pas partout, mais un peu, le plan de réorganisation qui avait été élaboré en 2019-2020. Il y a eu aussi la poursuite de l'assainissement du contrôle des finances de la ville d'Hudson et l'implantation du module financier. Il y a un nouveau module là, pour les immobilisations qui nous permet d'avoir un détail complet de toutes nos immobilisations. C'est ce qu'on a fait, entre autres, cette année.
Merci, Pierre. So for the highlights of 2021, in terms of operations, there was the revenues were up compared to budget, primarily due to transfer fees, but similar in total to the prior year. There were also a decrease in salaries and benefits due to the temporary closure of some services, particularly recreation, as mentioned earlier, as a result of the pandemic. There was an increased overhead for roads, water, and sewage maintenance and repair. There was the upgrading of the public works offices. There was a continued integration of new staff as a result of restructuring and deconfinement, and it continued to clean up the control of the town and of Hudson's finances and implementation of a capital expenditure financial module.
Du côté des investissements, au niveau du budget d'investissement, ce qu'on appelle le programme triennal d'immobilisation, il y a eu la poursuite de projets de mise à niveau et d'amélioration de nos infrastructures, tant au niveau de l'aqueduc, l'égout et de la sécurité des équipements informatiques. Suite à la pandémie, je pense que vous en avez tous entendu parler, là, il y avait certains problèmes qui a été rencontré un peu partout dans le monde. Ben, nous aussi, on a essayé de faire attention à ça, fait qu'on a investi de ce côté-là pour assurer la sécurité de nos données et de nos systèmes. Il y a eu la réfection de la rue Main de Oakland à Beach. Ça, c'est les réfections majeures. Il y a eu aussi la rue Carmel, Brittle Path, Seigneurie, Roslyn, Pine entre Lakeview et Main et Westwood, une partie de Westwood. Ensuite, il y a eu l'acquisition d'un tracteur multifonction pour la voirie et les parcs.
Merci. So the highlights in terms of investments. So this is the 3-year capital expenditure plan. There was a continuation of projects to upgrade and improve our infrastructure, such as water, sewage, and the IT security. There was the rehabilitation of Main Road from Oakland to Beach. And there was also Carmel, Bridle Path, Seigneurie, Roslyn, Pine between Lakeview and Main, and Westwood between Windcrest and 16 Westwood. And finally, there was the acquisition of a multi-purpose tractor for roads and parks. Voilà. So congratulations and thank you again for all your hard work.
Merci.
Much appreciated. So in terms of the resolution, I will need a mover and a seconder for the publication of this report. Obviously, you saw that there was one page that we will be adjusting thanks to Steve Farrell's note. And we will be publishing the highlights of the financial and auditors report on the town's website, as well as the detailed financial statement. Looking at Philip, when you see me bend down, it's because I'm making sure I haven't said anything silly. So I need a mover and a seconder. En français, merci.
Oui. 4.4, le Conseil doit voter pour déterminer que les modalités de diffusion du rapport sur les faits saillants se fera via le site Internet de la Ville.
Merci. Donc, I need a mover and a seconder. Darren Legault is moving, seconded by Peter Mate, to publish this report on the website. Anyone not in support of this resolution, please raise your hand. I see no hands are up. It is carried unanimously. Section 5 for the town clerk's office. Item 5.1, application authorization and issuance of tickets. This is for the update of the designation. An authorization to issue a statement which may be given by the prosecutor shall be given generally or specifically and in writing. In addition, it shall indicate the offenses or classes of offenses which is given. So this is per section 147 of the Code of Penal Procedure. And whereas it is vital for good management to periodically review the designated persons having jurisdiction to issue violation tickets, notably to reflect changes in the organization of the town. So this resolution is to appoint the persons designated in Schedule A, which is attached to this, as designated officers having jurisdiction for the enforcement of the bylaws listed, as well as their amendments. So this is every time we have a change in or substantial number of changes in the people appointed or at the town who are presently working for the town, we will put in the actual name that is current. In French.
5.1, c'est la mise à jour des désignations pour les autorisations d'application et d'émission des constats. Donc, compte tenu que le Code de procédure pénale prévoit que l'autorisation de délivrer un constat doit être faite par écrit, puis dans le cadre d'une saine administration, on fait une révision périodique pour tenir compte des changements dans l'organisation qui peut y avoir eu lieu. Donc, la résolution vise à nommer les personnes désignées à l'annexe A pour tous les règlements énumérés, de même que leur amendement.
Merci. So I'm just looking at the back. This is 6 pages. It's quite extensive. So thank you. I need a mover and a seconder for this resolution. Darren Legault is moving, seconded by Peter Mate. Anyone not in support of this resolution, please raise your hand. I see no hands raised. It is carried unanimously. Item 5.2, much awaited Environment Committee's creation. So whereas Article 70 of the Cities and Towns Act empowers the council to appoint permanent or special committees, and whereas council deemed it necessary to form an environment committee mandated to review and make recommendations to council in the form of a written report on matters relating to the environment as mandated by council, such as Hudson's greenhouse gases, the GHG reduction action plan, the implementation of a pay-per-use refuse pickup system, improving the tree canopy in urbanized areas, the Hudson pesticide bylaw, education and communication tools towards increasing environment stewardship. So this list is in no means exhaustive. It is just a starting point as a suggestion of the items that are of interest to council at this time. So this resolution is to form an environment committee and to give it the aforementioned mandate and to appoint the following members, whose mandate is for a renewable 2-year period, where Councillor Mark Gray would be the president, Councillor Darren Legault vice president, and the following members from the public: Kevin Solaric, David Calant, Joannie Gagnon, Wendy Dollinger, Marina Johnston, Diane Martineau, Julie Gideon, Chantal Saint-Laurent, Loretta Berg, Adrian Mitchell, and Jeff Cardale. And that the rules of internal conduct be as follows, where the frequency of meetings be set by the committee president, where quorum of 7 members must be met for a meeting to take place. After 3 consecutive absences, a person ceases to be a member and must be replaced by a council resolution at the recommendation of the committee president and vice president, where all meeting minutes are to be made available to the Town of Hudson Council, and other internal rules of conduct may be deemed necessary by the committee and are to be proposed by the committee members to the committee president.
5.2, c'est la création d'un comité en environnement. Donc, le Conseil juge opportun de créer un tel comité dont le mandat sera de réviser et de soumettre des recommandations au Conseil sous la forme d'un rapport écrit. Les enjeux reliés à l'environnement qui sont notamment visés sont la création d'un plan d'action de réduction des gaz à effet de serre, l'implantation d'un système de tarification par utilisation pour la collecte des résidus, l'amélioration de la canopée des arbres dans les secteurs urbanisés, le règlement sur les pesticides et la création d'outils et de communication pour améliorer la gérance de l'environnement. Donc, la résolution crée le comité, nomme les membres suivants dont le mandat est pour 2 ans qui est renouvelable. Donc, le président sera le conseiller Mark Gray, vice-président conseiller Darren Legault et les membres résidents Kevin Solaric, David Calant, Joannie Gagnon, Wendy Dollinger, Marina Johnston, Diane Martineau, Julie Gédéon, Chantal Saint-Laurent, Loretta Baer, Adrien Michel et Jeff Cardile. Et les règles de conduite interne du comité sont les suivantes. Donc, la fréquence des rencontres est à établir par le président. Le quorum est de 7 membres. Suivant 3 absences consécutives, la personne cesse d'être membre et doit être remplacée après recommandation par résolution. Les procès-verbaux doivent être rendus accessibles au Conseil et toute autre règle peut être proposée par un membre auprès du président du comité. Pardon.
Merci. So I will need a mover and a seconder. So it is moved by Mark Gray and seconded by Darren Legault that this Environment Committee be formed. If there are any objections to this resolution, please raise your hand. There are no hands raised. It is carried unanimously. So I'd like to personally thank all of these people who have applied and agreed to continue, and I wish you Godspeed. Moving on to section 6, human resources. This is item 6.1, temporary contract for the finance department. Whereas the anticipated needs of the finance department for the 2022 summer season and considering the efficient operation of the department. Whereas the town wishes to support the finance department in its operation. And whereas the offer of service for a support mandate for the finance department is to retain the services of Ms. Barbara Robinson for a temporary consultant executive position for the finance department, that the maximum duration of the mandate be 120 hours at an hourly rate of $30 an hour. To approve the payment of fees for the services of the temporary consultant to the finance department for a maximum amount of $3,600, and to authorize the Director General to establish and finalize the terms and conditions of an employment contract with Ms. Robinson for a temporary management consultant position in the finance department for and on behalf of the town, together with any documents required to give effect to this resolution, and that this expenditure be allocated to the budget account number 02130-00-145.
6.1, il s'agit d'un contrat temporaire au service des finances, donc c'est considérant les besoins anticipés du service et dans le but de soutenir le service des finances dans ses opérations. La résolution vise à retenir les services de Mme Barbara Robinson à titre de consultante temporaire pour un mandat d'un maximum de 120 heures à un taux horaire de 30 $ et d'approuver le paiement pour un montant maximal de 3 600. Et le directeur général sera autorisé à finaliser les modalités du contrat.
Merci. I need a mover and a seconder. So Darren Legault moves, and it is seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. I see one hand raised. This is carried by majority. So perhaps just to give a brief explanation, this is to be in support to the finance department, who right now has a person on staff who is working fewer hours than anticipated for health reasons. And this is to keep our rhythm of accounts payable on track. And we saw this as beneficial. Ms. Robinson is a previous counselor who has the strengths and experience from her previous work knowledge. So we saw this as a good temporary measure and according to the situation at hand. Item 6.2, policy for mobilization, attraction, and retention of the workforce. Whereas staffing issues have changed over the past 2 years, and it is increasingly difficult to find candidates who match the desired job profiles, whereas it is necessary to have incentives to mobilize staff, attract talent, and retain employees. Whereas it has been proposed that a policy of mobilization, attraction, and retention of the workforce be created to have a better attraction and greater visibility of talents. Whereas the said policy provides for the possibility of telecommuting, so working from home in compliance with certain requirements and depending on the nature of the job, a referral bonus of $1,000 per referral payable upon successful completion of the probationary period, and a retention bonus of $1,500 per new talent hired payable after having worked for 12 months in the position hired, that all eligibility criteria must be met in order to have access to the said bonuses. And whereas the town of Hudson considers that it is necessary to implement this new policy, the resolution is to adopt the workforce mobilization, attraction, and retention policy, and that the said policy be effective immediately, and that the said policy be made available to any employee currently on probation who meets the eligibility criteria of the said policy, and that a copy of the said policy be provided to each employee and be posted on the town's website, and that this expenditure be allocated to the budget under object 191-bonus.
6.2, la politique de mobilisation, d'attraction et de rétention de la main-d'œuvre. Donc, compte tenu qu'il est de plus en plus difficile de trouver des candidats correspondant au profil recherché, dans le but de mettre en place des incitatifs de mobilisation du personnel, d'attraction de talents et de rétention de la main-d'œuvre, il est proposé de mettre en place une telle politique qui prévoit la possibilité de faire du télétravail, qui prévoit une prime de référence de 1 000 $ une fois la période de probation de l'employé engagé terminée. Prévoit également une prime de rétention de 1 500 pour tout nouveau talent embauché qui travaille un minimum de 12 mois. Donc, la résolution vise l'adoption de la politique qui sera applicable dès l'adoption et accessible à tout employé qui est actuellement en période de probation.
Merci. So I will need a mover and a seconder. So Darren Legault moves and Mark Ray seconds. If there are any objections to this resolution, please raise your hand. 2 hands are up. It is carried by majority. Item 6.2. No, 6.3. Hiring. Administrative assistant for public works. Considering that the function 117 administrative assistant for public works has been vacant since March 29th of 2022. Considering that the proper functioning of the Public Works Department, it is necessary that this position be replaced. And whereas a posting took place as prescribed in the Article 9 of our collective agreement and ended on April 11th of 2022, whereas the selection process, assessment, and interview of applicants made in collaboration with the Human Resources Service and manager of the service resulted in a recommendation. The resolution is to hire Ms. Ariane Racine as an administrative assistant, function 117 to the Public Works Department, and that the hiring of Ms. Ariane Racine be effective as of June 6th, which is today, and that the hiring be subject to a probationary period which corresponds to the first 6 months of work with the possibility of extending it by 3 additional months as prescribed in the collective agreement, and that the town may terminate employment for any reason with 1 week's notice during this period, I guess, and that the expense be allocated in accordance to the planned budget.
6.3, il s'agit de l'embauche d'une adjointe administrative aux travaux publics, puisque la fonction est dépourvue de son titulaire depuis mars dernier. Un affichage a eu lieu et le processus de sélection et d'entrevue a suivi son cours et la résolution vise à embaucher Mme Ariane Racine au poste d'adjointe administrative au service des travaux publics à compter du 6 juin, donc aujourd'hui, et que son embauche soit assujettie à une période de probation correspondant aux 6 premiers mois de travail avec possibilité de prolongation de 3 mois supplémentaires.
Merci. So I will need a mover and a seconder. So Darren Legault moves and it is seconded by Peter Mate for the hiring of Ariane Racine. If there are any objections to this resolution, please raise your hand. I see no hands raised. This is carried unanimously. So welcome to the team, Madame Racine. I look forward to meeting you. Item 6.4. 2022 summer student hiring, whereas the Employment and Social Development Canada has a funding program for summer employment projects to provide financial assistance to employers to encourage the hiring of summer employees, and whereas the program opened in December of 2021, whereas the town applied to participate in this program and the request was granted for 9 positions for a total of 2,510 hours. Whereas the summer season is a busy season for public works, that the season brings its shares of additional work in parks and green spaces. And whereas the shortage of manpower has entailed doing a second posting for the Public Works Department and for the Recreation Department, whereas postings as prescribed in Article 9 of the collective agreement have been made for all job titles in the Community Pool and Public Works Department. This resolution is to authorize the hiring of the following community pool staff for the upcoming season. So Evan Bibi and Rafael Almeida to establish the terms and conditions of employment, the date of hiring and the dates of termination of employment in the employee's contracts, that the termination of employment can be the arrival of the first expiry date, either the date of the end of the contract or the closing of the swimming pool, and that the town during the pandemic may reduce the hours or close the swimming pool for public safety reasons, and that should this situation arise, the town is not required to give prior notice or compensation. This resolution is also to authorize the hiring of Public Works employees, function 2006 for the upcoming summer season of Curtis Driver, Dylan Boucher, Tyler Bruno, and that the hiring starts on or around June 20th, 2022 for a maximum of 800 hours according to the needs of the Public Work Department, and that the hourly rate is $24 an hour, and that this rate has been revised exceptionally for the summer of 2022 due to the shortage of manpower. And that in either case, except in the event of serious misconduct, the town may terminate the contract for any reason by giving 1 week's notice to the employee. No other notice or compensation of any nature whatsoever may be required from the town, and that this expense be allocated in accordance with the budget.
6.4 vise l'embauche d'étudiants pour l'été. Donc, le programme de financement d'emploi et développement social Canada nous a accordé pour 9 postes pour un total de 2510 heures. Donc, la saison estivale apporte typiquement son lot de surcroît de travail. Donc, à la piscine communautaire et aux travaux publics, il y a des besoins. La résolution vise donc à autoriser l'embauche à la piscine de Evan Bibi et Raphaël Almeida. La fin d'emploi sera soit la date de fin de contrat ou la date de fermeture de la piscine. Puis, on spécifie que la Ville pourra réduire l'horaire ou fermer la piscine pour des raisons de sécurité publique, sans être tenu de donner des avis préalables ou quelque indemnité que ce soit. Et pour ce qui est du département des travaux publics, l'embauche de 3 personnes, donc Curtis Driver, Dylan Boucher et Tyler Bruno, que leur embauche soit effective à compter le ou vers le 20 juin pour un maximum de 800 heures et que le taux horaire soit de 24 de l'heure, mais que ce taux soit noté qu'il est exceptionnellement révisé pour l'été 2022 vu la pénurie de main-d'œuvre et que la Ville puisse mettre fin au contrat dans les 2 cas en donnant 1 semaine de préavis.
Merci beaucoup. I will need a mover and a seconder. Darren Legault moves, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. I see no objections. It is carried unanimously. Item 6.5, end of employment of Urban Planning Department. So these are long, but I figure it's important to read through them. So whereas in accordance with resolution R 2022-03-76, probation March 2022, employee 964 required an exceptional extension period to better evaluate his performance. Whereas the extension period ended on May 28th of 2022, and that during this period, an improvement plan was initiated to help the employee to acquire all the necessary skills to carry out his duties. Whereas the improvement plan targeted an evaluation of 4 objectives over a 5-week period from March 21 to April 22 of 2022, and that the analysis period of the results of said plan was from April 25th to May 16th of 2022, whereas the employee was not able to improve his abilities to carry out his duties, whereas it is recommended by the Human Resources Department to terminate the employment relationship with employee number 964, the resolution is to ratify and endorse the recommendation of the Human Resources Department and terminate the employment of employee 964 for inconclusive probation effective May 25th of 2022, and to post and hire for the position of Urban Planning Technician Function 604, a full-time and unionized position for the Urban Planning Division, and that the Human Resources Coordinator is therefore hereby authorized to sign for and on behalf of the town the employment termination of employee 964 and pay for the employee any amount due for the employee as vacation pay in lieu of notice of said termination, that these expenses be allocated in accordance with the budget for salaries to be paid.
6.5, il s'agit d'une fin d'emploi au service de l'urbanisme. Donc, en mars 2022, l'employé 964 nécessitait une période de prolongation exceptionnelle de sa probation. Donc, un plan d'amélioration avait été mis en place pour l'aider à acquérir toutes les habiletés nécessaires pour accomplir ses fonctions. L'évaluation fixait 4 objectifs sur une période de 5 semaines. Malheureusement, l'employé n'a pas su améliorer ses habiletés. Il est donc recommandé de terminer le lien d'emploi avec l'employé en question. Donc, la résolution vise à ratifier le tout, procéder à la fin d'emploi de l'employé 964 pour une probation non concluante, le tout effectif au 25 mai 2022 et subséquemment d'afficher et de procéder à l'embauche pour le poste de technicien en urbanisme et de mandater la coordonnatrice des ressources humaines à signer pour la fin d'emploi et de payer toute somme qui serait due à l'employé.
Merci beaucoup. I need a mover and a seconder. Darren Legault is moving, seconded by Mark Gray for this resolution. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 6.6, hiring of an assistant to the Director General. I'd like to add a precision that this is an administrative assistant. Whereas administrative services wish to have an additional resource in order to improve and optimize customer service, and whereas the proper functioning of administrative services is necessary to fill this position. And that the posting was completed on May 25th, whereas the selection process, evaluation, interview of candidates made in collaboration with the Human Resources Department and the department directors resulted in a recommendation where the resolution is to hire Ms. Karen Simmons as an administrative assistant, the position 118 in administrative services, and that the hiring of Ms. Karen Simmons be effective as of June 27th, 2022. And that the hiring be subject to a probationary period. This corresponds to the first 6 months of work with the possibility of extending it by 3 additional months as prescribed in the collective agreement. And of course, that the town may terminate employment for any reason with 1 week's notice. This expense is to be allocated to the budget number 02-160-00-142. En français.
6.6, embauche d'une adjointe au directeur général. Donc, considérant qu'au niveau des services administratifs, ce serait utile d'avoir une ressource supplémentaire pour apporter des améliorations, pour favoriser l'optimisation du service client. L'affichage a eu lieu, le processus de sélection et d'entrevue des candidatures s'est fait par le service des ressources humaines. Donc, la résolution vise à embaucher Mme Karen Simmons au poste d'adjointe administrative fonction 118 et que son embauche soit effective à compter du 27 juin 2022. L'embauche est sujette à 6 mois de probation qui peut possiblement être prolongée de 3 mois et la Ville peut mettre fin à l'emploi pour tout motif avec un préavis d'1 semaine.
Merci beaucoup. I will need a mover and a seconder. So Darren Legault moves, seconded by Mark Gray for this resolution. If there are any objections to this resolution, please raise your hand. I see 2 hands are up. This is carried by majority. Item 6.7, update of contracts for self-employed workers in the fitness department or recreation. Whereas the town wishes to offer the best fitness activities to its citizens, given that the director of the community planning department has received a request to modify the work contracts of the fitness instructors of the recreation division. And whereas a cost analysis has been done and the request for modification is reasonable and does not exceed the estimated costs in the budget. Whereas the director of the community planning department recommends the amendments of said contracts, the resolution is to approve the service contracts as amended for the recreation division fitness instructors, and that this amendment applies to Maureen Young, Zoe Bolm, Brandy Jacobson, to approve the amendment to said contracts to be retroactive to the beginning of the spring of 2022 semester to all 3 said contracts. And to authorize the director of the community planning department to establish and finalize the terms and conditions of the contract for the services of these 3 people for and on behalf of the city, together with any documents requiring giving effect to the resolution, the expenses be allocated in accordance with the budget for salaries to be paid.
6.7 vise la mise à jour des contrats des travailleurs autonomes, donc reliés aux activités de conditionnement physique offerts aux citoyens. Donc, une demande a été reçue par le directeur du service à cet effet, suivant l'analyse des coûts et la raisonnabilité de la demande. La résolution vise à approuver les contrats de service tels que modifiés, lesquels s'appliquent à Mesdames Maureen Young, Zoe Bone et Brandy Jacobson, que la modification soit rétroactive au début de la session printemps 2022 et d'autoriser le directeur de la planification communautaire à finaliser les modalités du contrat.
Merci. So to explain perhaps that the evaluation was done based on the revenue that the town receives for these services, and that it was asked that there would be a balance between this increase versus what the revenues are. So there's no extra cost to the town for this. I will need a mover and a seconder. So Darren Legault is moving, seconded by Mark Ray. If there are any objections to this resolution, please raise your hand. There is one hand up. This is carried by majority. Moving on now to part 7, recreation, culture, and tourism. Unfortunately, Reed Thompson is not here this evening, so he will not be reporting. I did attend the last arts and culture meeting, and I believe they have another one on the 18th of June. Are we in June? Yes. And things are going well. They are making great progress with regards to the questionnaire that is being prepared for distribution to the entire town. And also there is a meeting that will be planned in June or July with the Conseil des Arts et de la Ville and le Conseil des Arts et de la Culture de Vaudreuil-Soulanges, and hopefully the council members, in order to review what are the expectations of all sides with regards to where a municipal culture policy should be taking the organization. So we are excited about this. We are just running out of time in our schedule to get this done, but it is a priority of ours. So item 7.1, recognition and honoring a lifetime of community involvement. This is the one I mentioned at the onstart. So whereas the Hudson Arts and Culture Committee's recommendation, I believe they like to be called the Arts and Culture Council, but that's all right. Recommendation, whereas this council, that's where the confusion happens. So the municipal council wishes to recognize and honor a lifetime of community involvement, which has greatly enriched the town of Hudson, being the engagement of Clint Ward on the occasion of his 90th birthday on the 11th of June of this year, 2022, and to recognize Clint Ward's valuable contribution to our community and through his involvement over the years with the Hudson Music Club, the Hudson Players Club, the Hudson Village Theatre, his founding of the Hudson Film Society, the Hudson Film Festival, and up to and including his continuing membership and support of the Hudson Arts and Culture Council. Clint Ward has contributed immeasurably to the betterment of life in the community of Hudson.
7.1 vise à reconnaître et honorer une vie entière d'engagement communautaire. Il s'agit d'une recommandation du Conseil des arts et de la culture de Hudson d'honorer l'engagement communautaire de toute une vie qui a enrichi la ville d'Hudson, soit celui de Clint Ward, et ce, à l'occasion de son 90e anniversaire le 11 juin prochain. Donc, il s'agit de reconnaître la précieuse collaboration qu'a apportée M. Clint Ward à notre communauté par son engagement au fil des ans au sein du Club de musique de Hudson, du Hudson Players Club, du Théâtre Village Hudson, par sa fondation de la Hudson Film Society, du Festival de films de Hudson et par son adhésion et son soutien continu au Comité des arts, récréation et culture. Clint Ward a contribué de façon incommensurable à l'amélioration de la vie dans la communauté de Hudson.
Merci. So I will need a mover and a proposer, or sorry, is it proposer? Moved and seconded. So Darren Legault is moving, seconded by Peter Mate. Thank you. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. I see no objections. It is carried unanimously. So thank you so much, Clint Ward, for all of your devotion to the town's culture. I really appreciate it. Item 7.2, Jack Layton Park activity, Shakespeare by the Lake. Whereas Shakespeare by the Lake event will take place the weekends of July 15th to 17th and July 22nd to 24th. So these are 2 weekends. Whereas the park's use policy does not allow for use of Jack Layton Park for events between June 4th and Labor Day. Whereas the said policy provides that any exception must be approved beforehand by council. Whereas Shakespeare by the Lake is a popular event for residents. It is now in its 6th year. This resolution is to authorize the use of Jack Layton Park for Shakespeare by the Lake production from July 15th, 17th, so those dates given before, providing that the park remains accessible to the public and that the production is free and open to the public, and to authorize the use of the park as a rehearsal space 1 evening a week, excluding weekends until July 15th, opening night.
7.2 vise l'événement Shakespeare by the Lake qui aura lieu les fins de semaine du 15 au 17 juillet et du 22 au 24 juillet. Donc, il s'agit d'autoriser préalablement l'utilisation du parc Jack Layton compte tenu que l'événement a lieu entre la fête du travail, la fête de la Saint-Jean-Baptiste et la fête du travail. Il s'agira de la 6e édition de cet événement populaire auprès des résidents. Donc, l'utilisation du parc est autorisée à condition que le parc reste accessible au public et que le tout soit gratuit et ouvert à tous, et d'autoriser l'utilisation du parc comme lieu de répétition un soir par semaine en excluant les fins de semaine jusqu'à la soirée d'ouverture du 15 juillet.
Merci. I will need a mover and a seconder for this. So moved by Mark Gray and seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. I see no objections. It is carried unanimously. Item 7.3, creation of Hudson Seniors Council, mandate and appointment of members. So this is for the creation of a permanent committee. There is one right now that is in place for the tracking of the action plan that was adopted recently. So whereas the town is an age-friendly municipality, in French we call it La Municipalité Amie des Aînés. It's a program set by the government called MADA. This policy was approved by council on July 5th of 2021. Whereas the action plan with the policy calls for the creation of this seniors council or seniors committee. Whereas the mandate of the seniors council is as follows. The Hudson Seniors Council is a group of committed seniors who provide information and advice on matters impacting the quality of life of Hudson seniors. Members are the link between Hudson seniors and the town. They provide advice on ways to enrich and enhance the health and quality of life of seniors in the community. To do this effectively, members should solicit input from seniors in the community, provide advice based on the input received, and form partnerships and organize events to educate, inform, and improve the quality of life for seniors. The Seniors Council can also call upon Town of Hudson employees and representatives from community organizations to advise them in specific matters. The council is composed of 7 members, 6 of whom are seniors within the community, and 1 representative of the MADA Oversight Committee. Members serve for a 2-year renewable term. And whereas it is proposed that the following Hudson residents are recommended to the council for appointment on this council for a period of 2 years from the date of their appointment. The names are Simon Lagimadière, Lynn Cook-Urtubise, Monique Bilek, June Pedersen, Donna Seaman, Jean Favret, and the councillor at this point is actually me, the mayor. If there are other councillors who would be interested in sitting on this committee, I remain interested, and we should add you at the next resolution. So this resolution is to approve the creation and mandate of the Hudson Seniors Council and to approve the nomination of the residents listed above. I will need en français.
7.3 concerne le Conseil des aînés de Thun. Donc, nous avons approuvé en juillet l'an dernier la politique de la municipalité Amis des aînés, MADA, qui prévoit, le plan d'action de la politique plutôt prévoit la création d'un Conseil des aînés. Donc, le Conseil a le mandat suivant. Donc, il s'agit d'un groupe d'aînés engagés qui fournissent des informations et des conseils sur les questions ayant un impact sur la qualité de vie des aînés. Les membres sont le lien entre les aînés et la ville. Ils fournissent des conseils sur la façon d'enrichir et d'améliorer la santé et la qualité de vie des aînés dans la communauté. Pour ce faire, les membres sollicitent les commentaires des aînés, fournissent des conseils en fonction de ce qu'ils ont reçu comme commentaires, forment des partenariats, organisent des événements. Le Conseil des aînés peut également faire appel à des employés de la ville ou à des représentants d'organismes et il est composé de 7 membres. 6 sont des aînés de la communauté et un représentant du comité de surveillance MADA pour un mandat de 2 ans renouvelable. Donc, les personnes nommées sont Simon Lagimodière, Lynn Cook-Urtubise, Monique Bellec, June Peterson, Donna Seaman, Jean Favret et Madame la mairesse siégera au nom du conseil. La résolution vise donc à approuver la création et les nominations.
Merci beaucoup. I will need a mover and a seconder for this resolution. Mark Gray is moving, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are no objections. It is carried unanimously. Item 7.4, Jack Layton Park activity, Illumi Yoga Festival. Whereas the Illumi Yoga Festival will take place on August 6th and 7th of 2022, whereas the park's use policy does not allow, as a previous resolution, does not allow any events between June 24th and Labor Day, whereas the policy provides that any exception must be approved beforehand by council, whereas the festival highlights Hudson, brings in many yoga enthusiasts from outside the area and is now in its 5th year. It was previously known as Park Rising. This resolution is to authorize the use of Jack Layton Park by the Illumi Festival the weekend of August 6th and 7th, provided the park remains accessible to the public and that workshops are free and open to the public.
7.4 vise le festival de yoga Illum qui aura lieu les 6 et 7 août 2022. Donc, encore une fois, compte tenu de l'utilisation du parc Jack Layton, il y a lieu que le conseil approuve préalablement cette utilisation. Donc, c'est un festival qui en est maintenant à sa 5e édition. La résolution vise à autoriser l'utilisation du parc la fin de semaine du 6 et 7 août à la condition que le parc demeure accessible au public et que les ateliers soient gratuits et ouverts à tous.
Merci. I will need a mover and a seconder. So Darren Legault is moving, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. I see no hands raised. It is carried unanimously. Item 7.5, 2022 Hudson Auto Show. Whereas the Hudson Auto Show will take place on Saturday, August 13th of 2022, whereas the Hudson Auto Show is a community-based event attracting exhibitors and tourists from Quebec and Ontario. Whereas organizers have requested that parking spaces be made available for participating vehicles, this resolution is to approve the use of the Town Hall parking lot on August 13th, 2022, and to approve the installation of no parking signs along Cameron between Main Road and Saint-Jean on the evening of Friday, August 12th of 2022.
7.5 concerne le salon de l'auto d'Hudson pour cette édition 2022 qui aura lieu le samedi 13 août. C'est un événement qui attire des exposants et des touristes du Québec et de l'Ontario. Donc, les organisateurs ont demandé à la Ville que des espaces de stationnement soit mis à leur disposition pour exposer les véhicules participants. Donc, la résolution vise à approuver l'utilisation du stationnement de l'hôtel de ville en date du 13 août et d'approuver également l'installation de panneaux d'interdiction de stationner le long de Cameron entre la rue Maine et la rue Saint-Jean à compter de la veille, donc le vendredi 12 août.
Merci. I will need a mover and a seconder. So Darren Legault moving, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. I see no objections. It is carried unanimously. Item 7.6, recognition of Shriners International Awareness Day. Whereas Shriners International is a well-known, respected fraternity dedicated to fun, fellowship, and philanthropy with hundreds of thousands of members belonging to 193 chapters throughout the world. Whereas members support Shriners Hospital for Children, a pediatric healthcare system that was founded by the Shriners fraternity and provides all care with no financial obligation to parents or their families. Whereas membership in the Shriners fraternity offers the invaluable opportunity to build camaraderie and lifelong friendships with other men of character and upstanding values. Whereas Shriners International offers its members professional development and leadership opportunity in the local communities and internationally. And whereas 2022 marks the 150th anniversary of Shriners International, as well as the 100th anniversary of the Shriners Hospitals for Children, whereas it is fitting and appropriate to acknowledge and celebrate this wonderful fraternity and its rich history on June 6th, that is today, Shriners International Day. This resolution is to proclaim the 6th of June as Shriners International Awareness Day and to encourage all our citizens to learn more about the Shriners International and celebrate its many impressive achievements over the past 150 years, and to approve the raising of the Shriners International flag at Town Hall for a period of 14 days. Was that it? You're making a face. Was it a week? All right, so we will correct that and make that a period of 7 days. I thought it was 2. So this was a member of the community who made this request, and we saw value in the request. So I will need a mover and a seconder for this. Merci.
7.6, c'est une résolution de reconnaissance de la Journée internationale de sensibilisation Shriners. Donc, Shriners International est une fraternité connue qui se consacre au plaisir, à la fraternité et à la philanthropie et qui compte des centaines de milliers de membres appartenant à 193 chapitres dans le monde entier. Donc, les membres soutiennent les hôpitaux Shriners pour enfants, un système de soins fondé par la fraternité et qui fournit des soins sans obligation financière pour les parents. 2022 marque la 150e anniversaire de Shriner International ainsi que le 100e anniversaire des hôpitaux pour enfants. Donc, il est approprié de reconnaître et célébrer cette fraternité et sa riche histoire en date du 6 juin, donc aujourd'hui, Journée internationale des Shriners. Donc, la résolution vise à proclamer aujourd'hui, 6 juin, comme journée de sensibilisation à Shriner International et d'approuver le lever du drapeau Shriners pour une période de 7 jours.
7 jours. Merci. It is moved by Darren Legault and seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? I see no hands are raised. It is carried unanimously. Item 7.7, Canada Day 2022. Whereas the Canada Day festivities will be held at Jack Layton Park on Friday, July 1st from 2 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. and that entertainment, music, and food are planned. Whereas the Jack Layton Park parking lot must be closed from 7 a.m. to midnight to allow the stage and tent to be set up, and the boat launch must be closed all day. Whereas the cost of the fireworks will be $10,875 and will be reimbursed in part by a grant of $10,000 already approved by Heritage Canada. This resolution is to authorize the closure of Jack Layton Park parking lot on the said days for the period given above, to approve a maximum expense of $26,000 before taxes, broken down as follows: $10,875 for fireworks and $15,125 for Canada Day festivities, and that this expense be financed in accordance with the budget.
7.7, Fête du Canada 2022. Donc, les festivités de la Fête du Canada se tiendront au parc Jack Layton le vendredi 1er juillet de 14h à 22h30. Et il y aura de l'animation, de la musique et de la nourriture qui y sont prévus. Donc, le stationnement du parc doit être fermé de 7h à minuit afin de permettre le montage de la scène et de la tente. Et la descente à bateau doit également être fermée. Le coût des feux d'artifice est prévu pour 10 875 et sera remboursé en partie par une subvention de 10 000 qui nous a déjà été approuvée. Donc, la résolution vise à approuver la fermeture précitée et d'approuver une dépense maximale de 26 000 avant taxes, donc 10 875 pour les feux d'artifice et la balance de 15 125 pour l'ensemble des festivités de la Fête du Canada.
Merci beaucoup. I need a mover and a seconder. Darren Legault moving, seconded by Mark Gray. My mind. Any objections to this resolution, please raise your hand. I see no objections. It is carried unanimously. Item 7.8, appointment to the Hudson Arts and Culture Council, whereas a resolution in 2019 by which the Hudson Arts and Culture Council was created, whereas the members are appointed by council resolution. This resolution is that Kalina Skolska be appointed as a member of the Hudson Arts and Culture Council.
7.8, il s'agit d'une nomination au Conseil des arts et de la culture d'Hudson, créé en mars 2019. Et la nomination vise Madame Kalina Skolska pour être désignée membre du Conseil des arts et de la culture.
Merci. I need a mover and a seconder. Peter Mate moving, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. I see no objections. It is carried unanimously. So welcome, Kalina, to the council. We are very excited to have you on board. Part 8, Public Works, item 8.1. I'm trying to speed through this. 8.1, road network installation of 2 stop signs at the intersection of Brisbane Street and Main Street, considering that the town has jurisdiction over transportation matters according to the Municipal Powers Act, considering section 295 of the Highway Safety Code regarding the powers of the person responsible for the maintenance of a public road, whereas the implementation of new stop signs at the intersection of Brisbane Street and Main Road would improve the security of our roads, considering that there is more than 30 meters of visibility without any obstruction on Main Road at the intersection of Brisbane, whereas council deemed it appropriate to install 2 stop signs at the intersection of Brisbane Street and Main Street. This resolution is to install these stop signs and to create a 3-way stop intersection at the expense of the materials and installation be allocated in accordance with the budget. I may add that speeding has been a large topic of concern for this council and many people writing into us. And this is just one of several measures that is being put in place. I could tell you a very sad story of someone who lost his dog as he was biking with his dog on Main Street. So really, I plead that everybody start to take life and safety along our roads more seriously. They're very narrow, particularly Main Road. And we will continue to put in other additional measures and continue to ask the public to be more respectful and to slow down.
8.1 vise l'installation de 2 panneaux d'arrêt à l'intersection de la rue Brisbane et de la rue Main. et ceci dans une optique d'améliorer la sécurité sur nos routes. Donc, la résolution vise à approuver l'installation de 2 panneaux d'arrêt sur la rue Main à l'intersection de Brisbane pour créer une intersection d'arrêt à 3 voies.
Merci. I need a mover and a seconder. Mark Ray moving, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. I see no objections. It is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 8.2, road salt, UMQ Purchasing Group of 2022-2023 season. Whereas the town has received a proposal from the Union des Municipalités du Québec, so the UMQ, to prepare on its behalf and in the name of several other interested municipalities, an invitation to tender documents for a group purchase of road salt. And whereas according to the Cities and Towns Act, a municipality may enter into an agreement with the UMQ in order to purchase materials, the rules governing the awarding of contracts by a municipality apply to acquisitions in accordance to the present section of the UMQ, and the UMQ agrees to respect said rules. The present process is subject to the rules governing the awarding of contracts applicable to the UMQ for its group agreement adopted by the UMQ Board of Directors. And whereas the town of Hudson wishes to participate in this group purchase for road salt in sufficient quantities for its activities and according to the rules established, this resolution, I'm trying to skip through the administrative stuff, is so that the town entrusts the UMQ with the mandate to analyze the tenders received and award the contracts, and that the town be committed upon the awarding of the purchase contract to the supplier by the UMQ to respect the terms of the contract as if it had contracted directly with the supplier, and that the town acknowledges that the UMQ will receive directly from the tenderer management fees corresponding to a percentage of the invoice amount before taxes to each participant. For the 2022 and 2023 season, this percentage shall be 1% for UMQ municipal organization members and 2% for non-members. We are members. And then it's more administrative. So that the expense be allocated in accordance with the budget.
8.2, un regroupement d'achat de l'Union des municipalités du Québec, UMQ, pour le sel de déglaçage pour la saison 2022. Donc, un regroupement d'achat qui permettrait à la Ville de conclure avec l'UMQ une entente selon les règles d'adjudication des municipalités qui s'appliqueraient. Donc, la Ville désire participer à un tel regroupement d'achat pour bénéficier de l'organisation par l'UMQ. Donc, la résolution confie à l'Union des municipalités le mandat de préparer en son nom les documents d'appel d'offres pour la saison 2022-2023 pour le chlorure de sodium. La Ville confie à l'UMQ l'analyse des soumissions et s'engage à respecter les termes du contrat. La Ville reconnaît également que l'UMQ recevra des frais de gestion représentant 1% du montant total facturé avant taxe, et ce pour la saison 2022-2023.
Merci beaucoup. I will need a mover and a seconder. So Mark Gray moving, seconded by Peter Mate. Any disagreement with this resolution, please raise your hand. I see no hands raised. It is passed unanimously. Item 8.3, appel d'offres AO 2022-05 TP for travaux publics, street line marking, additional expense. Considering the request from the town council to widen the traffic lanes on Bellevue and reduce the multifunction path width, whereas the contract that was awarded, the street line painting contractor Marquage Traçage Québec, appel d'offres AO-2022-05 TP, who is able to perform this work, and considering the additional cost of $15,750 before tax to remove the existing lines, and considering that the new lines on Bellevue Street are already included in the annual contract awarded to Marquage Traçage Québec. This resolution is to authorize the additional expense and to remove these existing line and that this expense be allocated to the budget.
8.3 concerne le contrat AO 2022-05 TP au sujet du marquage des rues. Donc, le Conseil juge opportun d'élargir les lignes de circulation sur la rue Bellevue et réduire la largeur du chemin multifonction. C'est l'entrepreneur Marquage et Traçage du Québec qui s'était vu octroyer le contrat de marquage des rues qui peut effectuer ces travaux pour des coûts additionnels de 15 750 avant taxes. Le marquage des nouvelles lignes était déjà inclus dans le contrat. Donc, la résolution vise à autoriser la dépense supplémentaire de 15 750 pour le retrait des lignes existantes.
Merci beaucoup. I need a mover and a seconder for this resolution. Peter Mate, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are no hands raised. It is carried unanimously. Item 8.4, this is for the addition of the Hudson Histories Garden to the garden maintenance contract. Whereas the Hudson Histories Garden located at Halcrow Cottage needs annual maintenance, considering that the garden is managed by volunteers, whereas a request has been made to the town for additional weeding of the garden, whereas the town has already a contract with the country gardener to perform the maintenance on public gardens, considering the offer of services of garden weeding received by the country gardener on April 26th, 2022 in the amount of $2,400 before taxes, and whereas the finance department has validated the allocation of this expenditure, this resolution is to amend the garden maintenance contract AO-2022-04 TP awarded to Le Jardinier Campagnard to include the maintenance of the Hudson History Garden for the amount of $2,400 before taxes, and that this expense be allocated in accordance with budget.
8.4 concerne l'ajout du jardin d'histoire de Thun à notre contrat d'entretien paysager de jardin. Donc, le jardin d'histoire d'Hudson, situé à la maison Halcrow, nécessite d'être entretenu annuellement et c'est géré par des bénévoles, mais la Ville a reçu une demande de désherbage de ce jardin, compte tenu qu'on a déjà un contrat avec le jardinier Campagnard pour l'entretien de nos espaces de jardin publics. Il serait possible de modifier le contrat pour 2 400 $ supplémentaires pour y inclure le jardin d'histoire d'Hudson. Donc, cette résolution vise à autoriser la modification du contrat en ce sens. Donc, pour y ajouter l'entretien du jardin d'histoire pour 2 400 $ supplémentaires avant taxe.
Merci. So perhaps to add some precisions that these are on as required basis. There's already great work being done by the volunteers and only hours worked will be charged to the town. So this is really a bank of hours essentially. And it's just there to keep our contracts pre-approved before they go and be paid. I will need a mover and a seconder, Darren Legault, and seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are no hands raised. This is carried unanimously. Item 8.5, mutual agreement contract for janitorial services. Considering that the unionized position of janitor was left vacant due to a transfer of position, whereas to maintain the hygiene of the municipal buildings, a contractor was hired to fill the gap for the period of time the position remains vacant. And whereas the company JS Maintenance was hired by the town, considering the invoice for the month of April 2022 of $6,840 before tax, this resolution is to authorize the payment of the invoice of $6,840 before tax to JS Maintenance for janitorial services for the month of April 2022, and that this expense be allocated in accordance with the budget.
8.5, contrat de gré à gré pour des services d'entretien ménager. Donc, compte tenu que le poste syndiqué de préposé à l'entretien est vacant compte tenu que la personne a fait un transfert de poste. Pendant la période où le poste demeure vacant, l'entretien des bâtiments a été confié à un contracteur. C'est la firme JS Maintenance qui a été retenue et la résolution vise à approuver le paiement de la facture de 6 840 avant taxes pour les services d'entretien ménager pour la période du mois d'avril 2022.
Merci. I will need a mover and a seconder. So Darren Legault moves, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? No hands are raised. It is carried unanimously. Item 8.6, awarding of contract AO-2022-08 TP refection of several sections of streets with pulverization of the existing pavement for 2022, whereas several roads require resurfacing to ensure public security. Whereas the awarding of said contract must be following a call for tenders process, whereas the public call for tenders of that appel d'offres, so public tender document, was issued by the Director of Public Works on May 5th of 2022 and published on SEAO, which is this public tender service online, whereas the bids received were opened publicly on May 20th, 2022. And whereas the following bids were received. The companies that have submitted a quote are Pavage Asphaltec for the amount of $691,197.08, Roxborough for $833,016.08, Pavage Ultra for $833,703.85, Eurovia, $832,478.80, Centra, $830,684.20, and Ali Excavation Incorporated for $689,199.17. So the good news is there were 6 companies that submitted their tender. Most of them are very close in numbers. And considering the compliance analysis carried out, the Finance Department has validated the allocation of this expenditure. This resolution is to award to the lowest bidder, Ali Excavation, the lowest conforming bidder, the contract for refection of several sections of streets for an amount of $689,199.17 before tax. And that this expenditure be allocated in accordance with the investment project IN-2203. When you see the numbers IN-, these are capital expenditure projects.
8.6 vise l'octroi du contrat identifié AO 2022-08 pour la réfection de plusieurs sections de rue avec décohésionnement de la chaussée existante. Donc, un appel d'offres public a été lancé et les soumissions reçues ont été ouvertes publiquement le 20 mai 2022. Les soumissions suivantes ont été reçues. Donc, Pavage Asphaltec Inc. pour 691 197,8 $, Roxborough 833 016,8 $, Pavage Ultra 833 703,85 $, Eurovia 832 478,80 $, Centra 830 684,20 $ et Ali Excavation Inc. 689 199,17 $. Et suivant l'analyse des conformités, la résolution vise à octroyer à Ali Excavation, le plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat pour un montant de 689 199,17 $ avant taxe.
Merci. I will need a mover and a seconder. So Mark Gray moving, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. I see none. It is carried unanimously. Item 8.7, awarding contract by mutual agreement for Pine Lake, the evaluation of impacts of removing the dam, considering the increased cost estimate for the construction of a new dam, whereas the town wants to evaluate the impact of removing the dam, considering the offer professional services received by EXP Services on March 23rd of 2022 in the amount of $17,000 before taxes. Whereas this impact evaluation will identify the steps required to remove the dam and a cost estimate of the work. Whereas the Finance Department has validated the allocation of this expenditure, this resolution is to award the contract for professional services for evaluating the impact in removing the dam at Pine Lake to EXP Services for an amount of $17,000 before taxes, and that the expense be allocated in accordance with the budget.
8.7, octroi de contrat de gré à gré, évaluation des impacts du retrait du barrage du lac Pine. Donc, considérant la hausse des coûts estimés pour la construction d'un nouveau barrage et compte tenu que la Ville veut évaluer les impacts du retrait du barrage, nous avons reçu une offre de service de les services EXP Inc. en date du 23 mars au montant de 17 000 avant taxes. Cette évaluation d'impact permettra d'identifier les étapes nécessaires au retrait du barrage et fournira une estimation du coût des travaux. Donc, la résolution vise à octroyer le contrat tel que mentionné à EXP pour 17 000 $.
Merci. Donc, to be clear, the cost estimate of the work would be at a very schematic level and would not be at the same level of development as the present dam drawing. So it's really just for un ordre de grandeur. It's really not to compare apples with apples. All right, I will need a mover and a seconder for this. Mark Gray, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hands. There are 2 hands up. It is carried by majority. Section 9, public safety. 9.1, request to amend the revised fire safety cover plan authorization. Should be able to go through this quickly. Anyone who knows, another really long one, but in 2021 at a regular council meeting concerning the adoption of the revised fire safety cover plan sent to the MRC in order to obtain the certificate of conformity from the Minister of Public Security. Considering the adoption by resolution in 2021, the regular meeting of Council of the MRC of September 15th concerning the adoption of the draft revised fire safety cover plan sent to the Ministry of Public Security in order to obtain the certificate of conformity from the ministry. Whereas the Minister of Public Security sent to the MRC of Vaudreuil-Soulanges on December 8th of 2021 a certificate of compliance of the draft revised fire safety cover plan, whereas the adoption by resolution number 22-02-23-34 at the regular meeting of the Council of the MRC of Vaudreuil-Soulanges concerning the adoption of this revised fire safety cover plan, establishing its entry into force on March 7th of 2022. Whereas Section 30 of the Fire Safety Act indicates that any modification of the fire safety plan in order to make it conform to ministerial orientations or to modify the protection objectives, reduce the measures, or postpone the deadline provided for therein, as well as the revision must follow the same procedure as its elaboration. Whereas an analysis of call cards requiring a strike force for the year 2021 shows that during the weekday period, an average of 7.5 firefighters have responded to the intervention, whereas the argument to justify a strike force of 8 firefighters in the fire safety cover plan for the Hudson Fire Department submitted on April 12th of 2022 to the Ministry of Public Security through the MRC of Vaudreuil-Soulanges, whereas the measures put in place and in effect to help reach the number of firefighters needed to provide a strike force, including automatic mutual aid with neighboring towns, considering the issues related to the recruitment and retention of personnel, as well as the considerable investments made by the town of Hudson in order to offer a fire department and a medical first responder service to its population in accordance with Objective 8 of the ministerial orientations. Whereas this orientation states, although they should also aim at the objective by establishing wherever possible intervention modalities calling for 10 responders at the time of initial alert, it can be admitted that the municipalities having recourse to volunteer firefighters experience difficulty in mobilizing such a strike force, in this case, a staff of 8 shall be considered the minimum. And so whereas the town of Hudson will have no impact on fire protection within its territory, this resolution is to request to modify the town of Hudson's fire safety coverage plan for transmission to the MRC of Vaudreuil-Soulanges according to the following specifications. So I think you get the gist of this, but it is to reduce our force de frappe. So our, whatever that was in English. Thank you. From 10 to 8, so 8 firefighters during weekdays, 10 firefighters during evenings and weekends. And that the municipality of Hudson will mobilize upon initial call for low-risk building fires, a number of 8 firefighters during the day. So as it is. Complicated, I'm sorry.
9.1.
Hein?
Oui. Demande de modification du schéma révisé de couverture de risque en sécurité incendie. Donc, en 2021, autant du côté de la ville que de la MRC, il y a eu des résolutions d'adoption relativement au projet de schéma révisé de couverture de risque, laquelle a obtenu une attestation de conformité en décembre et est entrée en vigueur le 7 mars 2022. L'article 30 de la loi sur la sécurité incendie prévoit que toute modification doit se faire suivant la même procédure que son élaboration. Donc, il y a eu une analyse des cartes d'appel qui nécessitait une force de frappe pour l'année 2021 et ça fait ressortir que la moyenne d'intervention des pompiers est de 7,5 pompiers. Donc, également, en lien avec les enjeux, avec les orientations ministérielles, qui mentionnent qu'il peut être admis pour les municipalités ayant recours à des pompiers volontaires qui éprouvent de la difficulté à mobiliser une force de frappe supplémentaire, que l'effectif minimal puisse être considéré à 8 pompiers, compte tenu que la ville ne subira pas d'impact de protection en matière de protection sur son territoire en réduisant sa force de frappe. La résolution vise à demander qu'on modifie notre force de frappe pour qu'elle soit dorénavant de 8 pompiers de jour et de 10 pompiers pour les soirs et fins de semaine.
Merci beaucoup. I will need a mover and a seconder. So Mark Ray moving, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. I see no hands raised. It is carried unanimously. Final section 10 on bylaws, 10.1 bylaw 559.1-2022 to amend bylaw 559 regarding garage sales and temporary sales, RMH 299. This is for the adoption. Whereas a notice of motion of this bylaw was given at the regular meeting of Municipal Council held on May 2nd of this year, whereas Council has reviewed bylaw 559.1-2022 to amend the bylaw 559 as described above, whereas there have been no changes to the proposed bylaw tabled on May 2nd, this resolution is to adopt the bylaw. Just to adopt it. So, en français.
10.1. Il s'agit de l'adoption du règlement 559.1 qui vise à modifier le règlement 559 sur les ventes de garage et les ventes temporaires. Il y a eu un avis de motion du présent règlement qui a été donné à la dernière séance le 2 mai 2022. Le présent règlement qu'on adopte ce soir ne comporte aucune modification quant au projet, à la version projet qui avait été déposée. Donc, il s'agit de l'adoption.
Merci. I will need a mover and a seconder for this. Mark Ray moving, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. See no hands raised. It is carried unanimously. Item 10.2, bylaw 753-2022 to support the sewer connection assistance program. So this is a notice of motion and tabling of the draft. I need a counselor to give notice of motion that he would move or cause to be moved at a subsequent session of the council, the adoption of bylaw 753-2022 to support the sewer connection assistance program and tables the draft bylaw. The purpose of this bylaw is to provide an assistance program to provide connection to the existing sewer line on lots not connected to the sewer system. And so the counselor that would move the adoption, the notice of motion. You will do it? Okay, so Counselor of District 1, Doug Smith, gives notice of motion that he would move or cause to be moved. The bylaw 753.
10.2. Il s'agit de l'avis de motion et du dépôt du projet du règlement 753-2022 relatif au programme d'aide du raccordement au réseau d'égouts. Donc, le conseiller Doug Smith donne l'avis de motion et dépose le projet. Le but de ce règlement est d'offrir un programme d'aide aux lots non raccordés au réseau d'égouts pour la connexion à la ligne d'égout actuelle.
Merci. So item 10.3, this is loan bylaw 754-2022 to finance this sewer connection assistance program. So it's related to the previous item. I need another counselor or the same counselor to give notice of motion that he would move or cause to be moved at a subsequent session of the council, the adoption of the loan bylaw 754-2022 to finance the sewer connection assistance program. The purpose of the bylaw is to finance the sewer connection assistance program. So Counselor, you again. So Counselor District 1, Doug Smith gives notice of motion.
10.3, il s'agit de l'avis de motion du règlement d'emprunt 754 qui verra à financer le programme d'aide du raccordement au réseau d'égout et c'est le conseiller Doug Smith qui en donne avis de motion de son intention de soumettre pour adoption à une séance ultérieure. C'est un règlement qui va viser le financement du programme d'aide au raccordement.
Merci beaucoup. Are there any new items under new business? Anyone? No? All right, passing on then to the second question period. Thank you for still being here. There are 15 people still online with one hand up so far.
Stiff endurance is what it takes. Thank you all very much for your endurance. I'll try to make it quickly. Jim Duff, 127 Charles Wood. Items 10.2 and 10.3. I am happy to see this council moving on the previous administration's efforts to incentivize the connection of those 123 eligible properties in the municipal sewer system that are not connected to the sewer system, that are eligible, that are adjacent to the sewer system, that are eligible. Now, it's all in the hemispheres report. It's all there, everything, all the numbers you need. So I think it's 20 pages. But this isn't up to the individual property owner. Bylaw 568 clearly states that those living on the sewer line do not have the option of refusing to connect. With the extension of the sewer line to Willowbrook, Leger, parts of Main Road, those people won't have the option of refusing to connect. You understand what you're doing. You can't just say, well, we'll lend you the money so you can connect. The law has to be turned around so that you have to connect, unless you want to repeal 568, in which case you can do that. I'm not telling you to, I'm just suggesting that's the way you can go. I'd like to know how many doors will be added to the system, because I have a vested interest. We on the sewer system have a vested interest because it'll reduce the cost of the system for those who paid to be connected more than a decade ago. And 568, as I mentioned, makes connection mandatory, not optional. So will this be enforced? I know you guys, as of now, have one municipal inspector left. I don't know if you've got others in the pipeline. I hope so. One ain't going to cut the cheese with all the things that you want to get inspected and enforced. As the 2021 Hemisphere study of private septic installations pointed out, 2/3, that's 68% of the 1,863 systems privately owned systems in town, 1,863, are either non-conforming or uncharacterized. In some cases, I think there's simply 43 cesspools. Cesspools is what we used in the 19th and 20th centuries. We still have them in Hudson. So this thing becomes imperative. And I rag on about it. I know it's a problem listening to me because I can smell it when I ride my bike through Hudson. You say, why does it stink like that? Because there's untreated sewage in our ditches. And those ditches are running into the Vivary Creek and into the Ottawa River. And I can see it, I can smell it, and I think it's a shame, especially if you guys were elected on an environmental ticket. It should be one of your first priorities to clean up the town so it doesn't smell.
Mr. Duff?
What?
Excuse me.
You want to come with me, Doug? I'll take you on an inspection
Excuse
tour.
me,
Huh?
through me.
Pardon?
Questions need to go through me.
Oh, sorry,
yeah.
sorry. So municipalization, is the council ready to proceed with the next step in Hemisphere's recommendation? The municipalization of inspection and biennial pump outs, as is the rule in Rigaud and many other municipalities in Quebec. I recall we were talking about this, what, 6 months ago? About that. So I just wondered if that was going to be the next step. The
Well,
municipalization of the pump out.
I believe
and
that is the
inspection.
direction that we would like to go in, and I'm very grateful to previous council for at least getting this report done, this evaluation. So now we have an estimate. Now, remember that these are estimates, right? So we have a sense that there's a third that are reasonably, chances are they're okay. The other 2/3 need to be conforming. What I found also interesting in the report from Hemisphere is that they give a trajectory in terms of how to bring the public into this process. And they've identified as well, because part of that mandate was to help council evaluate, right, the extension of the network. So I believe that that should be work of the infrastructure committee this year and to make recommendation, but we're definitely in the same vein as what you were all
This is good
looking
news.
for.
Thanks. I won't rag on. Branch chipping delay. I know we're running behind on that. If there was a
I
reason
think
for
it's
it.
almost completed, is it not? It's completed. We ran behind on delay. It fell off the table, but these things happen and we were able to
It
find.
wasn't done at our place today. so
Was
I'm
it
just
not?
wondering, we're
So-
good. Don't think so. Okay, wow, okay, I'll take it.
But
You're on it.
do
Okay.
send a note, whatever, a request for, what are they called? Service request, thank you.
Okay, good. The SQ installment, I see $882,586 going. Is the two equal payments, 882?
Is it two equal? Two equal.
That doesn't include the rebate. So we will, or maybe will, or what do you know about that from the?
I haven't
MRC?
had an update on that. They're still confident. I haven't heard that there's any wavering from that sense. But I understand that that rebate was for a period of time and now we're on new calculations. So there shouldn't be a rebate coming afterwards. Am I wrong? You think? Okay. So I will give you an update when I receive one, Jim.
Oh, that's great, because that's just one of those things that they try to sneak through.
Yep.
And one other thing was, yes, I'm severely allergic to pesticides.
Mhm.
And they were spraying somewhere nearby when the wind was blowing pretty heavily for the last 2 weeks. And they're supposed to not spray when the wind is blowing. There's a velocity limit, upper limit, where they have to stop spraying.
Can we send a reminder perhaps to golf courses and maybe post a note on the website? I think it's good to for spreaders or utilizers to know that there are rules out there and that we're noticing.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. There is, okay, there's Eva, hang on, there are two other people in the room who are going to ask questions and then I'll It's Eva. I think she'll stay to the end of the meeting, so please go ahead, Louise. Text me Eva if you don't.
This is not a, I'm just like to know, where's the vulnerability report on the website? Do we have one?
Vulnerability report?
Is it on the website?
Do we have such a thing?
Yeah, you do. You must have it by law.
Is this a
Provincially, you have
social
to You have to
services?
submit it to the province. It needs this. So what it is if there's if they'll see anything that they think Hudson is vulnerable on, lack of water, sewage, anything. San Lazare made theirs public. It didn't need to, but they still made it public. We should have ours, like pesticides, for instance. They would talk about that.
So
and
is it
that's-
environmental
It's
vulnerability?
well, yeah, I think it's environmental.
Or is it
For
social
instance-
health?
Well, for instance, in San Lazare, they discovered when they tested their wells that there was benzene
Uh-huh.
in Saddle. So a worrisome amount, not top of the limit, but because benzene does go underground, funnels its way down over years, chances are it's coming our way. Chances are there's pesticides or whatever.
I
in our
wonder
water.
if this was related to the present situation that they're in, right?
No,
No?
every municipality has to do
Okay.
this. So it's
Interesting.
called.
Oui, vas-y.
Il y a certains renseignements dans le rapport qui ne sont pas publics, donc nous devons caviarder ou faire un rapport contenant les données accessibles au public. Donc, récemment, on a été mis au fait que notre rapport n'avait pas été publié sur le site web. Donc, c'est dans les discussions là, actuellement.
OK, merci.
Thank
Ça,
you.
c'était pas ma question, mais c'était juste parce que
No, I
c'était
appreciate
important
it.
de savoir
Yeah.
si
Good
on en
point.
a où est-ce qu'il est. I know we were just talking before, so I've got all my big stuff with me that I used to bring with me all the time. Now that
You
we're
must know
really
it by
strict
heart
about
now.
things, I have information. Under Article 322 of the Cities and Towns Act, I asked the question of councillors. This is regarding, it's a Supreme Court ruling that says that councillors must explain the reason for their vote. So I'm asking each of the councillors to please explain why you voted against Villa Wyman. You don't have to agree with TPAC. It is a recommendation, but given apparently that tonight's refusal means they can't build the project this year, I would just like to know why each one of you voted against it.
Philip,
Under
procedure?
Article 322.
Yes, except you.
Come on.
Yeah, except the 322 indicates that it goes through the mayor, so it's up to the mayor to decide how to run the meeting.
All right, I can do that. You want individual councillors to answer? Or would you like me to answer a
No,
compendium?
They have to explain why they voted, because then you go under Article 222, which is fait le principe contenu du deuxième alinéa de l'article 322 est à l'effet que les personnes présentes à une séance de public peuvent poser des questions oralement aux membres du conseil durant la période de questions. And then,
Yeah.
I have to have this.
Yeah.
That's why I know this. Is that they must explain their vote. And generally a negative vote, you have to explain. So that's what I'm asking.
We're good, Philip? Yes? So each person, do they have the choice to say no or do they not? Do I have the choice to say no or not?
Under Article 322.
I have the choice.
You are.
Okay.
Under Article
All right,
322.
I'm looking to my right. Would you like to answer the question or not?
I'm not actually clear on the question, to be honest with you.
The
because-
question is, yeah, why did you decide, you're a counselor, so you each make an individual decision of why you choose to vote a certain way. I'm just asking why each one of you is unanimous amongst council that you voted against the Villa Wyman project that was presented. So I'm just asking, why did you vote no? To each of the councillors under Article 322, each one of you, I'm allowed to do this. It doesn't say anything about going through the mayor, it just says I need to ask. And under the Supreme Court, it says anybody who votes a negative vote must explain why they vote a negative vote.
Can I just intervene? The councilors will remember that they have the right to exercise their discretion. And their answer should be within that discretion.
So the motivated answer to a refusal is basically what is already contained in the resolution.
Right,
Do we
yeah,
agree?
right.
So you can all answer the same answer.
Well, that would
right?
be my answer. If it was a resolution put forward from TPAC.
Which we read out
Which
at
we
that
read out.
item. And if you'd like, I can give a little more
Yeah, but it's a
description to that, which is what I
recommendation.
was going to do with Nicole and her team anyway, but I would expect, I'm just making sure, would you all be answering the same? Yeah, okay. So the scale of the building is one thing, the orientation with regards to the others. So you know how Stevenson Court is perpendicular and you know how the church is this way. Well, the project is slightly angled because it's the shape of the lot is skewed. So they followed the skew, which is a little awkward when you're looking at it down the street. So there's the skew. There is also the height and the scale of the building with regards to the proximity of the end of Stevenson Court. There's also, as was mentioned in the resolution, in terms of lack of articulation of the wall, there's a lot of blind surfaces. We'd like to just see it worked further. And this, again, was unanimous from all people around the table. It's a project we support, but we would like to see it fitting the lot with a little more sensitivity to the existing conditions. And we will be meeting, I think our scheduled meeting with Villa Wyman is on the 13th of June. And we will go through those items one by one with them.
So we have to still go through TPAC. We still have to go through
Yeah, but I mean, look at Hudson Village Theater, went back several times. There's several projects that go 3-4 times. The idea is we want to streamline that and help them get there, which is one of the reasons why we will be sitting down with them and working on this with them.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
I'm just concerned because some of the members of council.
It was not
voted-
an easy, discussion for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's important to remember that TPAC recommends council votes.
Oh, I believe council
And
is well aware, well aware.
It's not necessarily.
Well, we
has to
have
be an
gone
agreement.
against, right, the recommendations of council of TPAC in the past. So I believe that we're well covered in that sense. But thank you, Louise.
No problem. I'd like to see them
Me too.
as R55 too.
That's a different conversation.
I'm one of the neighbors who actually signed for it, who agreed to have the zoning.
We will
change in
have
the
that
density
conversation soon,
for the
no doubt.
benefit of the seniors of our region.
Thank you, Louise. Eva, hang on. We still have Helen Kurganski. Oh, okay. Eva, Helen is giving you the priority, so I'm giving you the rights to talk. So give it a try. Eva, you have the floor.
Today? Yeah. Are
I
you able to hear me?
Yay.
Yay, okay. All right, I'll try and make it short. As there has been no return to district meetings, I would like to ask council to reconsider this new limit of one question per the first question period. If you're looking to save time, I would suggest that public presentations, which commence this evening, which are a nice idea, but have them presented before the council meeting, for example, at 7 p.m. or at the end of the meeting. That way, those who are interested could stay online to watch or tune in early. As there appears to be a concern about the length of time that the meetings run, I think that many would rather see that time invested in having an adequate question period and the council meeting itself, as it's often the only time for many to discuss things that are being voted on before the meeting. So that's my first question.
I need
Any
you,
chance
yeah,
of reconsidering?
I didn't fully understand. So can you just repeat it, but more slowly? And
Sure. We don't have district meetings. We don't really have an opportunity to discuss what's coming up in a council meeting. That is why the first question period is so important, which is why I'm asking for reconsideration of there only being allowed one question in that period. If it's a concern regarding time, I would suggest, for example, today you had a public presentation, that such presentations be held before the actual council meeting start time or afterwards, to allow for as much time as possible for a question period to be fully included in the council meeting.
Fair comment. Most people will ask one or two questions and then they'll ask more questions at the end of the meeting. I really don't feel that I'm quashing anyone's voice. I agree with you that it was a long meeting already because we had the financial presentation. I didn't think that went out properly. I should have offset the Heartbeat Farm maybe to July. But again, this is something that I think is valuable to the community. And sometimes there's some meetings that last longer than others. How the council meetings are run, we know that 348 is outdated. I would like to revamp that and we can look at how to do it. I've heard your comments, June's comments. I think also Louise was saying the same thing. And that's why you're here. It's so that I can think twice about some of these measures I'm trying to put in. And if I do them, it's because I also receive comments from other members of the public that those question periods need to be tightened up. So I'm caught between l'arbre et l'écorce, and I rarely will cut someone out. It's unfortunate that the person who was here at the start of the meeting who didn't hear me well, and I forget where he was headed, but he did have a question. He doesn't usually attend the committees, the meetings. So I'm. Right. Thank you, Helen. So Helen just reminded me that his question was with regards to safety on Crescent at the back of Westwood. Thank you. Did you get his name, Helen?
I got it.
You got it? Okay, good. So I'll reach out or Mark will reach out to him tomorrow so that we're sure to receive his comment. So
am I allowed to ask any more questions?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay.
It's only 11:13 p.m.
Oh, okay. Oh, lots of time. Main road and cycling. As much of Maine, as we know, doesn't have a bicycle path and not even a very big shoulder. It can be quite a challenge. For example, those trying to negotiate between Bellevue and the town center going westward, at times you need to yield to the side for your own safety's sake when there's big traffic coming by. My question is, would it be possible to cut back some of the overgrowth along the stretch? Because there are many parts of that stretch where the trees and the shrubs are literally onto the road, and you haven't got any so much as a few inches to yield to the side. And I was wondering if this could be addressed maybe when the town is cutting the grasses along the ditch. Maybe they can look at trimming back a little bit of the free growing shrubbery in that sector.
Having ridden along that edge, I know what you mean. I just looked over to our town manager and we will put that on our list of items. I think that's a valuable comment. Thank you, Eva.
And last and short, Seniors Council. It's great to hear. Thank you for chairing the group. And my question is not one counselor willing to offer a little time to chair this group? It's really important. Yeah. We have a large group of seniors. I'm a little disappointed to see that none has jumped into that. I know they're all busy, but yeah, it's important.
It is important. The resolution came in late this month. So again, I just wanted to make sure it was on the table as there had been a lot of preparation on it. On our end, I think it would be nice if we'll appoint someone, and I expect that we will. So in the interim, I'm happy to bridge that period.
Thank you so much, and thanks for hanging in so late.
You're welcome. Thank you, Eva.
Bye-bye.
Helen, you're going to close out our question period.
Helen Kurganski at 22 Quarry Point. I followed with Ava to say really it was really an ambitious agenda. I mean, thank you. I know you've all been working very hard and you have a lot of things you wanted to share with us, but perhaps for future things like the financial report could be a separate presentation like we used to do in the past going forward for other years. So that we used to do a presentation of the finances on its own so people could really have a chance to exchange and have questions and stuff. Because otherwise in the meeting, I mean, we're really running it, we're past 11. I'm very happy to know Jim Duff said that you're going to go forward for the support for the sewage system, that you're going to the MATA, the Environment Committee. There's all kinds of extraordinary things happening, but it's a lot to present, and a lot of questions that I have, and I don't think we have that much time to ask them. But I'm going to ask just two, if I may. One is, I just want a clarification.
So to me, Helen, to
Pardon?
me, and then I'll pass the floor.
Okay, it's on widening Bellevue. Did I understand correctly to change the lines cost us an extra $15,750 just for that?
Before taxes.
Before taxes. I thank you very much for widening the lanes. Enough of citizens have asked that it be widened.
Mhm.
Did I also see correctly, did they scrape the surface of the asphalt to get rid of the paint?
That's how they do it.
Last time when they wanted to change the lines, it was just temporary. They just put a black paint over it.
I
and then-
believe then that flakes and then that line will show up and create
Because
confusion.
I have really a concern when I saw that they damaged the surface of the asphalt and we will end up having problems. going
Asphalt
forward.
doesn't have a coating, it is through and through.
It's
right?
like, anyway.
Yeah, I think this measure was very appreciated from what I can
Appreciate
tell
that it
from
was done,
comments.
but
Yeah.
I'm concerned with the way they looked into the asphalt personally. And I will see over time. I hope
Right.
my
But
concerns. are
asphalt
not-
is through and through, so you're not damaging the
hopefully my-
asphalt.
my concerns are not that. And I'd like to just understand, I don't know if you're going to answer, there were two councillors who voted against the project at 570 Main. The construction for a.
So
place that
again,
had been
through me and I will pass the floor. So you'd like to hear from each one of them, or
There's
would you
only
like?
two- There are only two people who. had
Right.
voted. I just
So-
want to know why they,
All right, so please.
for 570 Main.
I just think that it doesn't fit in the neighborhood.
Okay,
Too big.
and the-
For me, it's volume, like of the criteria. It's just so much larger than the previous structure that for me, volume is the criteria that didn't feel like it'll stick out in the neighborhood.
Well, actually, that's one of the things that at the last demolition committee meeting recently, the demolition committee voted to demolish a house. I didn't see the final plans, or we saw the sketch of what it would be. And I'm very, very concerned that the footprint of the new house is way bigger than the original one. And again, the same kind of thing. It goes from a little cottage on a street of little cottages and a cute little street to a big house with a 2-car garage and a lot of green space and trees that are going to have to be sacrificed for that. And do we have anything in our bylaws to talk about the footprint of houses and the amount of green space that when you have a lot that you have to preserve? Is there anything that looks into these kind of questions, considering we care about the environment, the tree canopy, and going forward?
No, I appreciate your comment, but you remember from sitting on the demolition committee that you can't voice or look at necessarily the replacement project and look to improve it. You're really there to assess the condition of the building that is there. And it is my understanding that based on the technicality, or not the technicality, I think that Doug does a much better job at explaining this than I do, but even if the intent had been to raise the house and to change the foundations because of the construction methods or the construction, help me Doug, but the way that the block walls work on either end of the house to separate the foundations from the out of ground walls would have been extremely complex, if impossible. So that's one thing, that's demolition. And because this house is not an escape area, it does not go back to TPAC at any point. So it's a little awkward in those situations. Of course, we'd like to keep houses within a certain scale of the neighborhood, but that right now, what we're receiving as projects are really based on present zoning. And as you know, we will be looking at that.
That's what I'm saying. Look, going
Just a
forward-
minute. Did you want to-
No, but
Okay, good.
Cut-
No, I
covered.
just want to make sure. Thank you.
I think we simply felt and believed that it would be cost prohibitive. Nobody would go in there and try to fix that foundation and then lift the house and then rehabilitate the house for the same little house.
I'm not questioning the demolition decision. You had all the facts to make that decision. But what I'm saying is what we allowed to replace it and footprints and.
Unfortunately, it's not an escape. It's not an escape, so it follows zoning, no discretionary.
So
law.
in the town, Is that going to be a forever situation that if somebody wants to do wall-to-wall house on a lot and the lot is, and it's wall-to-wall house, then there's nothing we'll ever be able to do about that? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I'm saying that in the next coming months, our next step will be to work on zoning, space, look and feel, heritage. That's the next step. We've been working on environment, as you know.
Yeah, thank
We're
you. Thank
working well on that. And our next task, our next chantier, if you want, of the bylaws is really the look and feel. So each one of these situations is helping us essentially understand we need to possibly increase, the limits of the space, or we need to define what is allowed on a lot differently so that there's more green space. All of that will come up for discussion.
So it's going to be a work in progress that encourages me.
And I really appreciate that. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you, Helen. Say thank you to Pierre and Philip, yes, and Melissa, of course. All right, if there are no other questions, I will move on to that last item that always needs a vote. Let me see quickly. 12, adjournment of meeting. It is moved by Derek Go and seconded by Mark Gray that the meeting be adjourned at 11:22, and I need a vote. So is there anyone who's not in favor of this resolution? Just raise your hand. I see no hands, so it is carried unanimously. Thank you.
Yeah.